Welcome to the Bloody Disgusting Network. The ensuing show will change, transform, and otherwise alter you. Good luck.
My friendship to all of you precludes my involvement with any one of you. But if you wanna make love, then I do too, and I'll be right there behind you. All in the name of oh, all in the name of oh, all in the name of
Greetings, constant listeners. Welcome yet again to the Losers Club, a Stephen King podcast from Consequence of Sound. I am your host, Stutterin' Randall Colburn, and I am so excited. This is it is our third episode of our It coverage, but my first episode being on the It coverage, and I'm very excited to be here. Last week, as you know, we covered part one. The week before that, we covered sort of the background, the history, the why of it. I think that's a good way to look at it.
I like that.
Yeah, and so we're back now with part two, June of 1958. We're also going to be covering the Second Derry Interlude. We're going to be doing that as well. And then next week, we'll be on to part three, Grown-Ups. Guess what that's about? So, like I said, my name is Stutterin' Randall Colburn. I'm not going to stutter because I would find that to be insensitive. I stuttered a little bit on the way in, but I kind of stutter when I get really excited. You've probably heard me on the podcast do that before. Have you, Mike?
I have.
I start going,
I think we all stutter at some points.
I do. I think I do it the most, though, which is why it's appropriate that I am Stuttering Randall Colburn. So who are you and why are you here?
I'm Michael Trashmouth Rothman.
Yes.
I'm editor-in-chief and president of Consequence of Sound and a constant contributor to this podcast and Halloweenies.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of Halloweenies.
Our limited edition podcast that's going 1 month at a time leading up to David Gordon Green's Halloween, which I believe our guest here today has already seen.
Ooh, we can get a little insight into that. And that's coming out next month, am I right?
It's coming out this month.
This month?
Oh, yeah.
Wait, it comes out in September?
Oh, it comes out in October.
Oh, yeah, you're right. We're recording this in September.
Getting released in October.
Oops. This is what happens when we try to be ahead of the game, as they say. So, and who is that giggling from across the country?
This is Mel Marshstomp Castle. I changed my nickname from Marshhead to Marshstomp because Marshstomp is also a Pokemon.
Ooh,
and I find that really fitting.
That works.
Yeah, just sitting pretty in Iowa City over here. Excited to talk about part two. And my dog is here.
Aww.
I just fed him some chicken, so he will be around for a while.
Has your dog read it?
You know, I haven't asked him. He's probably reading it when I leave it open. That's why he's so scared and anxious all the time.
So you two have already discussed your histories with it. We already know how you first encountered it, your relationship with the book. I want to hear our next guest discuss how they first encountered not just it, but also Stephen King in general. Say hi.
Hi, it's me, Katie Reif of the AVClub.com. I just got back from Fantastic Fest, where, yes, I did see Halloween.
Ooh.
Feel free to be jealous.
I am.
It's very cool. We're very, very happy to have Katie on the pod. She is a horror nut, I would say. Katie, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but
it's my specialty.
I
like
saw
to
you
say.
in a documentary before I really knew you very well.
Which one?
It's a one about VHS collectors.
Oh, Adjust Your Tracking?
Yes, I
Yeah.
like that.
That's a great name.
My one and only documentary appearance.
I'm in Best Worst Movie, the documentary about Troll 2, which I embrace heartily. But no,
I'm in True TV's
yes, you are.
Tommy Boy documentary.
I love
That's
that.
awesome.
You win amongst all of us.
Oh yeah,
That's
right.
the best one.
You got Tommy Boy right there.
No, I was like
Piss off,
really.
Mac.
I was really fascinated with the sort of VHS collector renaissance and the whole idea of like how VHS like so much exists on that platform that will never exist on other platforms.
That was my entire 20s.
Yeah. So I saw you in that documentary and I loved it. And so it was really cool.
So that's why you were eyeing the Halloween VHS there. That makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's.
We'll discuss later.
Love it.
They
love
have
it.
a very attractive looking media, not even the Anchor Bay.
No,
Trey,
no.
impressive.
This
It's
goes back
true.
way back.
So I want to hear a little bit about Fantastic Fest, but first, why don't you tell us about your relationship with Stephen King? When did you first discover the author that we have dedicated this podcast to?
Okay, so I discovered Stephen King through a film first.
Uh-huh.
And that's because my parents didn't allow me to watch R-rated movies when I was a kid, but I was still very drawn to them. However, they did own one R-rated horror movie on VHS, and that was The Shining.
Nice.
And so I was a latchkey kid, and I had about 2 hours at home every day by myself, starting from when I was about 8, before my mom and my sisters came home. And I used to watch The Shining every single afternoon after school
Wow.
for years.
That's amazing.
So you could like reenact it probably word for word.
Probably. I can definitely, like when I saw Ready Player One, I was like, I don't know. Some of these things don't quite add up.
Did it scare you?
Yeah, which was why I loved it so much.
Yeah, totally.
And that movie, you know, it's a Kubrick film, and so like, you know, I don't think that my 8-year-old mind fully grasped like, you know, the high level of filmmaking, but I did. I was like, oh, this is an adult movie. This is like, you know, it's kind of blew my mind because I expected it to be like scary, but I didn't expect it to be, I don't know. Even at that young age, I could kind of grasp that it was sophisticated.
Right.
Yeah.
But you didn't read The Shining until you were much older.
Yeah, not till adulthood.
Because the only book you said you read of King when you were young was...
The Stand.
And why did you choose that one?
I don't know.
Did you see
I honestly don't know because it's such a... it's like not the most like it doesn't have the most kid friendly hook.
No.
Out of all the Stephen King books,
It was my first too.
I don't know why it was the first Stephen King book I ever read.
That's great.
But I remember reading it over summer vacation because it took the whole summer vacation to finish it. And I was a very prolific reader when I was a kid. And so, like, that was a big deal that it was like, you know, it took a lot longer to read.
Yeah. No,
It had a lot of rape in it, as I recall.
Did you see
Yeah.
the miniseries first?
Of it?
Yeah. Oh, no, of The Stand.
No.
Interesting. See, that's why I read The Stand.
Ditto.
That was my first book as well by King.
But
and
did you know
I read.
The
I saw the
Shining
miniseries.
had a book version?
Yeah,
Did you,
yeah,
want
yeah,
to
yeah,
seek
yeah.
that out? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I knew that there was a book version of The Shining, but yeah, my parents were pretty strict.
Oh,
About,
sure.
you know, protecting us from
The bad things.
from bad things, and we all see how that worked out. I write about horror movies for a living now, and I think my mom just kind of accepts it.
Yeah. When did you finally read The Shining? I'm just curious.
Oh gosh, probably like my late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah. Did it hold up to the movie, or do you still prefer the movie?
I prefer the movie.
Yeah,
Ditto.
I think a lot of us feel that way. I
It's the
love
official
both,
canon
but-
version of Stephen King's Great Tale. That Mike Flanagan,
This is going to be what shuts us down, Mike. Good job.
Mike
We have a
Flanagan
running
is
bit
making a
about-
direct sequel to that movie.
Mike
Oh my God.
Flanagan's
No, he's not. And
Doctor
I'll
Sleep,
Wager whatever amount of money you deem fit.
and
that's
whether it
not
will be a
what's
sequel
happening.
to Kubrick or the book or both, and we'll see. We have a bet going.
Well, I have a
Flanagan,
source that says
I'm putting money down now that it's going to be more of a sequel to the book because it's Flanagen.
Boom, boom,
Thank you.
boom, boom,
Thank you.
in your face.
all I know is that it's being run by Warner Brothers, and they're probably like, Flanagan, look, you did a nice job there with Gerald's Game, but you're with the big boys now, and we
did do a
want
good job
a
with
sequel.
Gerald's
I love Gerald's Game. I rep that all the time. Mike trashes it because he didn't like the last 5
It's
minutes.
90% great, and then the 95%. I'd even say 97, and then that last ending, I'm just like, why did you do this?
But
But
that's
for
too
you,
much.
it's like a piece of a turd in the soup, right? Like it spoils the whole thing.
It's like a bug crawled up on the table, and I'm like, well, there goes the night.
But isn't that him being faithful to the book?
I know, but that's the thing. It's like Stephen King has he's a little hit or miss with endings
When I
sometimes. and
interviewed
the ending,
when I interviewed Mike Flanagan for this podcast, he said, "I am not there to fix Stephen King's book."
I don't agree with that.
I thought that was interesting, which I'm very interested to see what he does with Doctor Sleep.
Me too.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully he could fix the
Me
book
too.
just like Stanley Kubrick.
I'm going to
did.
make a lot of money off of it.
No, man, I'm definitely count me in on that Flanagan. You're going to owe me $20.
Yes,
We'll see.
Yes.
We'll see. I all I know is
Or
that Warner
however much
Brothers.
we're betting here.
I'm just betting on franchise making filmmaking right now, or franchise filmmaking, and I just know that Warner Brothers is like, ooh, we could use the Overlook Hotel like designs and use it for the posters, and we could use footage from The Shining, and that'll
So
get the
if
audience
it's
in.
a mix, who wins? Like if it's
I don't
Oh,
like
we both lose.
we both
the-
lose. Yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
It's
So-
like Aliens versus Predator.
Yeah, exactly. And so before we hop into the book, I actually want to hear. So you just got back from Fantastic Fest, which is a fest
true.
that I have always wanted to go to.
That's
Almost
true.
went.
It's it's a genre
You
fest.
should go, Rothman.
I
Yeah.
almost went, and I just couldn't because it was a little too much money. I had to skip TIFF and Fantastic Fest this year.
Yeah.
The back-to-back is pretty brutal.
It's a genre fest in Austin. It shows almost primarily like horror, sci-fi, thrillers, cool stuff like that. Lots of great movies premiere there. And you were just there. So what would you say are maybe the 3 takeaways that you can't stop thinking about since you left?
The 3 takeaways. This year's festival, I was pretty impressed. They had a lot of big, kind of highly anticipated titles. We got to see Halloween, and we also saw the North American premiere of Suspiria,
Nice.
which I have been insanely hyped about.
Same.
And I argue that it's not a perfect film. It does have some like scripting issues. Like I interviewed the screenwriter, and I was like, "Buddy, let's talk about this." But overall, honestly, I kind of loved it.
Yeah.
So did Caffrey, because Caffrey was down there.
I kind of loved it.
covering it, and
It's
yeah,
so
he-
fucking crazy.
That's what he was saying. He walked out of it and was just like, "Holy shit, this movie!"
Right. Like it's a very like composed, almost somber, dialogue driven, like art film, capital A. And then it's got this third act that's just honestly one of the most batshit things I've ever seen in my life.
How's
Like-
the music?
Oh, it's great. Tom York sings on it, which kind of
What,
surprised
sings on
me.
it? Oh.
Yeah, there's like music with words and lyrics, which was surprising to me. I didn't think he was going to do that. What? Because
He better not be trying to channel Goblin. Is he like, wait,
No. They deliberately made it different. It sounds like Tom York's solo stuff is what the soundtrack sounds like.
So, what would be your rating for Halloween?
My rating for Halloween, I'm sorry, it's a soft B, maybe a B minus.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we were kind of. That's what Sarah.
Well,
Kerchak-
Caffrey saw it.
Soft
Yeah,
B.
Caffrey has gave me a long text thread about it when I was at dinner right after he premiered, and I just had to stop reading them just because I was like, oh god, like some of the stuff he was describing to me, I'm just like, no.
Well, Halloween is his lifeblood. If you listen to our Halloweenies podcast, which you can subscribe to in the Consequence of podcast
Consequence
Network.
Podcast Network.
Consequence Podcast Network. There, I'm stuttering Bill right up
Stuttering
in here.
Bill, yeah.
No, the Dan is very, very invested in this film, so it was interesting to see his response. So I think he fell in a similar boat to you. I think soft B, B minus is kind of where he landed and has a lot of thoughts. So I'm looking forward to hearing you guys talk about it on the Halloweenies podcast, which you can subscribe to via the Consequence Podcast Network. I did better.
Let's
that
do it
time.
again.
You can subscribe to via the Consequence Podcast Network.
The Consequence Podcast Network. Let's all say it together. The Consequence Podcast
Stuttering Randall.
Network.
Stuttering Randall living up to his name.
It's okay. Iowa Silver.
So maybe one other big highlight.
Gosh.
Anything surprise you?
My
Like
two other, well, I was, there was one that I hadn't even heard of, which was called Standoff at Sparrow Creek that I really liked. That was like a 70s style closed room thriller. It came from Cinestate, which does all of S. Craig Zoller stuff, which
Ooh.
I'm a bit of a Zoller contrarian. I don't love him.
Gotcha.
But I liked this one a lot. It was just like really tight and really kind of fleet-footed, like very cynical. It was very, very 70s style, and I liked that a lot. I thought the script was excellent. And then the one that really surprised me was One Cut of the Dead. I had heard about it.
Okay.
I had heard about it, and I was like, I don't know, man. Like, can you really reinvent the zombie movie? Yes, children, it has been done.
Nice.
Japan did it, which seems about right. It's really great because like you watch like a 30-minute low budget single take found footage zombie movie. And it's got some like prominent spots where you're like, wait, what the fuck? Like it looks like they just mistakes. But then so that happens and then the credits roll. And then you get another hour of movie that is the setup to the shooting of the movie in the first part. And you see, so basically you see the punchline and then you see the setup for jokes.
Is this the one? I'm sorry. Is this the one? The J.J. Abrams one?
No,
that's
okay.
Overlord.
This
Gotcha.
was it's a Japanese indie. It was made for about $25,000 US and has already like made like 250 times its budget in Japan. It played in Fantasia, and then it played Fantastic Fest. I believe it was its American premiere. And nothing's for sure, but I heard a couple distributors are sniffing around it, pretty big ones.
Nice. And what's it called again?
One Cut of the Dead.
Nice. I want to see
Awesome.
that. That
Awesome.
sounds awesome.
Really clever, like really, really clever because, so you don't realize you're seeing jokes in the first part. You think you're just seeing kind of a crappy zombie movie. And then you realize later that they're setting up the joke whose punchline you already saw. And so it's kind of like a creeper humor. But once you figure out what they're doing, it's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
It's really funny.
That's
And then you probably just want to go see it again, right? Like you
Exactly,
just
yeah.
wanna-
Yeah, the article that I read about it said that a lot of its box office in Japan is driven by repeat viewings and people come dressed up as the characters and stuff. And honestly, I wanted to do a group costume for Halloween, but no one would know what it was. So like
You could
3
train
other
'em.
people in Chicago who went
like-
to Fantastic Fest.
You could be like, all right, well, you're gonna wear this, and you're gonna wear that, and then just be like, it could be like a whole theatrical production that
Yeah,
night.
yeah.
Well, our favorite GIF in the pod and amongst the podcast is James Woods in a leather jacket walking away from an exploding building in John Carpenter's Vampires. We hate James Woods, but we love that GIF, and so we're thinking about going as James Woods walking away in a
All of
leather
us.
jacket for Halloween this year. Literally all of us.
I thought our favorite GIF was Adam Levine from American Horror Story.
That's the most notorious GIF, I would say.
My favorite GIF personally is the Jerry Seinfeld just being like, I'm out of here.
Yeah,
Like,
well,
'cause I
maybe
use it
that's
way
how
too many times.
That's probably how our listeners feel about us just talking about our favorite gifts right now. So we should probably move on. So, Katie, one last question before we move on. When did you first read it?
No, I'm afraid my story isn't very interesting.
That's okay.
I went on a family trip to my cousin's wedding in Costa Rica last year, and I knew I had a week, and I knew it was coming out, and I had reported on the movie a bunch, and I was like, oh, I should read this book. So I did.
And
I'm sorry, it's not that great of a
no.
story.
How long did it take you to read it?
A couple months.
Yeah.
I had a solid week. I plowed through the first half in a week, which was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you say the first half for you works better than the second half?
I kind of like the bonkers cosmic shit at the end.
I do too. Yeah, I can't remember the first time I read it. It wasn't like a landmark King for me in the way that like The Stand was or Pet Sematary was. It was a book. I had seen the miniseries first, but I didn't see it when it first came out. I like rented it later when I was like starting to really get into Stephen King.
I have a question for you on that. Yeah. Because I was in the same boat with that. Well, I mean, I didn't watch the miniseries until after I read the book like a few years ago, but I always avoided it because I always thought it looked like too on the nose with like the clown, and then I thought because I only recognized Annette O'Toole, and
Ritter,
and the dad from Problem Child.
Yeah.
That's what my child thought in a childhood mind. So I always skipped it. And I wondered, did it take you a while to like come across the movie and finally go, all right, I'll just watch this 3.5 hour thing or whatever it is?
I was obsessed with horror, but I was too scared when I was a kid. And so I would walk through the horror aisles kind of with my hands over my eyes and like peeking through. And I love to just stare at the VHS covers. Yeah. It's like,
I did too.
It's like,
that was my favorite thing. Only, like, I really think my parents not letting me watch that stuff backfired because I became fascinated with it.
Same. Yeah. My parents didn't want me to watch it, but they weren't like harsh about it, but it was more I was just scared. Like I couldn't handle blood when I was young. Like gore was very, very, very intense to me. The movie that broke me of it, I always like to say, well, one of them, there's a couple, but Dawn of the Dead, the original was so much, and I kind of like, it's kind of like, immersing yourself in something in order to overcome it. It's like riding the biggest
Exposure
roller coaster.
therapy.
Yeah, it's like riding the biggest roller coaster to overcome your fear of roller coasters. And I mean, obviously, in retrospect, there are much more violent movies than that, but it was the most violent movie I'd ever seen. Yeah. But so that was kind of what broke me. And so I started renting every horror movie I could find. And I'm like, what are the classics I haven't watched? But I was also reading Stephen King a lot. So I rented it because I'd been seeing it in Blockbuster for ages. And I loved that it was 2 VHS tapes, because
it's 2 for the price of 1.
I know. Well, that's how I felt when I was young. Like I was such a dork. I loved long things. Like that's why I read Stand first, because I love the challenge and the weight of it. And so the idea that it was this like 3-hour epic, you know what I mean? I was like, I gotta watch this. And so I watched the miniseries, probably like 3 or 4 times on my own, because I would keep re-renting it because I was really into it. And then I remember, and this is like such a good portrait of the kind of kid I was, I remember showing it to my friends, and it was like a really hot sunny summer day, and we were watching it at my friend's house, and his brother kept coming in and going, why are you watching a 3-hour movie when it's nice out? You should be playing sports. And then I was just like, but I don't want to play sports. I want to watch a 3-hour horror movie. And so it's
Like the archetypal, however you say that word, horror nerd story.
I know, it's so true. And it's like I remember feeling so much shame because I didn't want to go out and play sports, but what are you gonna do? So I watched it again. And then I was, after I'd seen the miniseries a few times, that I watched the that I read the book. And yeah, I remember it took me a while to read the book, but I was very, very into it. Although I remember I was guilty of this when I was young. I always wanted to get to the action, you know? And so, especially when I was reading long books, even though I liked the challenge of the long books, I would still skip sections. Like not skip, but I would skim. Like I was a hardy skimmer.
So these interludes you just hated?
No, the interludes were kind of cool because I thought the Black Spot story was interesting. I was like into some of that. It was more like when, and that's in this section, in Ben's section, where we just learn about how the sewer system works over like 15 pages. And I'm like, I think, and so I would skim that. And then that's kind of been, I've read it. I read it one more time after that when I was probably, late teenager, like 17 or so.
Just an easy read.
Well, I read it when I was like 13, probably the first time. And then I reread it when I was probably 17 just for kicks. But although I remember then, I think I skipped even more because I was like, well, I know this part is kind of boring. And so I was bad about that when I was young, but rereading it now is actually cool because I feel like this is the first read where I'm giving really ample attention to everything.
Well, here's a question. So you read it before the new movie came out.
Yes.
You read it.
Obviously, yeah.
Obviously. In this reread.
Yeah.
Did you picture the kids as the kids from the movie?
It's fun that you asked that. I was thinking about this yesterday because I wasn't feeling great last night, so I watched a movie that I know will make me laugh. It's called Billy Madison. Maybe you've heard of it.
I have.
And my sweet, gentle, loving wife indulged me. And the kid whose face he shakes and goes,
looks like Ben.
Never go to high school, that kid is the kid I have always imagined as Ben. And he has
kind
a
of what I
mullet.
had for a while before, because I read it in like 2013, 2014.
Yeah.
So it was before they really started casting all the kids.
Yeah.
That's weird because I kind of had like a similar illusion to that, because that's, that seems like the way that King describes him. You don't really see, like, you see like heavyset kids in movies, but they're never this like massive in the way that King describes it.
Well, we all know King loves to sort of get...
Oh, he goes over the top.
He goes way over the top. When
over
he
the top,
discusses that
even
kind
like
of thing.
through point of views that don't really make much sense, which I'll go into in this episode. But
yeah,
but like that Billy Madison kid always comes to mind.
It's
always.
so funny. It's so funny because it's like just such a bizarre thing. Because for the most part, and the thing is, this isn't a result of me not. I would say that I prefer the casting of the kids in the new movie.
I do
for the most part, especially like
Richie.
Richie. I love Finn Wolfhard.
Yes.
I love.
He was perfect.
My God,
Yeah.
you better not be shitting on my boy Seth Green.
No. I
think.
But here's the thing.
No, but
when I read it, I think of Seth Green. I don't.
Really?
I love the new kids, especially like Jack Dylan Grazer.
Like
as
New Kids on
Eddie.
the Block?
Wait, what?
New kids on the block.
New Kids on the Block.
You just said I like the new kids.
Oh, yes, but no. Jack Dylan Grazer, who plays Eddie in the new one, I think he is fantastic.
Perfect. Yeah.
He is so good. But I still think of the kid who played Eddie, the little like old man who with the little sweaters, who is very sweet. And in the 1990 version, he's the one I think of, and I think of Jonathan Brandis. I will say though that I think of Sophia Lillis. From the new one for Bev, even though I love Emily, I can't remember her name right now. Emily, I can't remember. She's great, but I do think of Sophia only because I think she was so perfect. And she was to me the real standout of the new It.
Oh, totally.
And so I think about her. So yeah, it kind of fluxes in my mind a little bit. And I will say for Henry Bowers, who I'm so excited to talk about this episode, I still think of
Henry Bowers.
he's my all-time favorite Stephen King character.
Oh my God.
And
Really?
What?
Yep, I have so many thoughts about this.
Really?
And, yeah, I worship the ground that he walks on. As a character, I hate him as a person. He's bad.
Oh, yeah,
he's a
right.
bad boy.
That's not what you were texting me last night. You're like, God, if I know that the listeners tagged me as Stuttering Bill, but gotta say, I am a Bowers,
I'm Bowers to the end.
That's what you were telling me. I was like, Jesus
Well, the
Christ.
thing is, you're making a joke because I didn't tell you that.
You
but
didn't
the
tell me
thing
that,
is,
no.
I actually would tell you that if the conversation had ever steered that way. I love Henry Bowers. This is a character who seared himself into my head. And a lot of it, and I know this sounds kind of dumb, but it's like, I loved him in the miniseries too. The kid who plays him in the miniseries, I think, is excellent.
I think he's a little too on the nose greaser kid.
Oh yeah, I mean but that's the thing is
He
like
is in the book too.
Yeah, well,
that's the thing.
Yeah, I mean to a degree. I actually feel like in the book from what I was reading is he's a little bit of in between, sort of like 80s kind of dirty kid they cast in the new one versus the greaser kid.
Yeah.
And we all know King's obsession with greasers. We've talked about,
he's like terrified of him.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's who he grew up getting made fun of by.
Probably.
Yeah,
because
the more hair gel, the more scary they are.
Yeah, I mean, like
always
sometimes-
talks about how wet their hair.
like sometimes they come back, and then Carrie, obviously, like the greasers
And
Christine, yes, they're bad people,
Yeah,
and so I actually kind of love that interpretation of Henry as a greaser. Although, who was it? Was that you who reminded me of the pink jacket, or was that
Yeah,
Dan?
it was me, yeah.
And like the thing is, like I actually went back and reread that because I had totally forgotten that
It's
they
such
say
an
that Henry
anecdotal
wears
thing
a-
that they really center on for some reason.
that Henry wears a pink jacket. I have thoughts on that later, but yeah, neat stuff. And so, anyways, that's my relationship with it. I love the book. Rereading it's been a blast. I'm almost done. I'm reading on Kindle, so I'm 75% done. And so I'm getting there.
We had one question last week that Mel actually proposed to the group, and Al proposed it actually 2 weeks ago in their first episode. But when you're reading it,
Yeah.
I mean, you just said Henry Bowers was
Yeah.
your favorite character, but what character, like especially of the Losers Club, did you gravitate towards? Like you kind of felt that you had a kinship to.
When I was young, Ben,
Really?
I think just in terms of just attitude, the way he was.
He's a soft boy.
Yeah, well, he and it's like he's brainy in ways that, like, you know, in the new movie they made him sort of the history nut, and not Mike. But Ben was kind of curious. The way he would hang out in the library was something I would do. I was a library kid, and
too.
I also was bullied a lot. And so it's like, and I feel like that's part of my obsession with Bowers, and we'll get to it. But it's like, I know what it's like to hide while you know bullies are looking for you, and go hide in the library where there's books and it's happy, and you know they're not going to come in there.
Yeah.
So it's a safe space.
Did
so
you have a lot of crushes? I feel like so much of this is a lens for the adolescent crush.
Yes,
through him.
one of my word processor quotes is like the way after he kind of has his first conversation with Beverly, the way he's so love struck. It's just stuff. I was a crush happy kid when I was young, so it was. I really related to Ben, I'd say. So, how about you, Katie?
I think Mike Hanlon is my favorite character in the book. I like, because I think I was kind of like him when I was little, where like not like a target for bullies as much as Ben is, more just like kind of like not part of it at all.
Yeah, on the outskirts.
Just kind of on the outside, and spend a lot of time at the library and just like alone reading books and kind of off in your own world and feeling like you see things that other people don't because they're right in the middle of it. So yeah, Mike Hanlon's my favorite character in the book.
Yeah, I think rereading it now, Mike is the character that I'm really drawn to. I'm finding the interludes. Because I would, you were right. I did kind of skim the interludes. I read them when I was younger, but I skimmed parts of them because, I didn't really have a connection when he talks a lot about his relationship with his father. And I think when I was young, I just didn't have a huge interest in that. And so I would read it, but kind of skim. And now I'm finding myself very touched by a lot of that. And I think that the voice that Mike uses when he writes those interludes, that first person, is a very necessary voice that we get, and a really interesting part of the structure. And so, yeah, last week we talked about part one. We broke down the various things. And part one is very much an introduction. We're meeting the adults. We're getting glimpses of them as children. We're hearing a lot of things about, what happened, but we're still very unclear about it. And so you guys already kind of broke down the structure.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm going to do a little recap of what happened in this section, which is very long. I think it's one of the longest sections in the book is part two.
Surprisingly long,
Yeah.
which I wasn't prepared for when
Same.
revisiting, like being like, well, we're going to go into part two. I was like, oh, fun. They're like, wow, we do spend a lot in June.
Yeah, I mean, June of 1958 is the title of part two, which is what we're going to be discussing today. So, and it comprises what, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's so that would be 6 chapters plus the second interlude, and basically it works in a very similar way as the first part, in that each one kind of centers around one character. But I think that and you guys kind of touched on this, but what I really love about the structure here that we get is each chapter, except for Mike's, which we'll talk about because that's the Eddie Corcoran chapter, which I think is fascinating. And but each one begins with sort of the character's journey into Derry, whether it's on an airplane, whether it's in a car, whatever. We're watching them enter Derry and the memories are flooding back. And just like in the first part, you know, the idea of memory being fractured and slowly being restored really dictates the structure and how this book is told, because the memory returns as it enters into the story.
And so conveniently tapers off, right? Where the previous loser had just, left the story.
But hey, that's good storytelling. I kind of love how, you know, chapter 4 where we begin, it's Ben takes a fall, Ben Hanscom takes a fall, and that ends kind of right when he meets with Bill and Eddie in the Barrens, and then Bill's chapter is next, and then we hop right into them.
Yeah.
And we keep moving that along, and I think that's good storytelling.
No, it goes as fast as, you know, a Concorde.
You seem pretty pretty critical of it,
I'm not
Mike.
very critical. I really love the structure and format for this section right here. I just do, whenever I'm reading it, I'm always just like, this is it's very nice and convenient to be able to keep going to exactly where the story had tapered off in the other ones. But it's cute. It's
credit the turtle.
Well, I have to say, when I first read the book, as an adult last year, middle part, I kind of, towards the end of this section, I was like, oh, so is this whole book just like repeating horror movie set pieces over and over again with different characters? Mm-hmm. And then once I read the entire book, I was like, it kind of is.
Yes.
It kind of is. You have like your opening scare, and then your middle scare, and then your climax where it all comes together.
Yep.
But just like repeated from a bunch of different characters' point of view. And I ended up appreciating it and liking it a lot in the scope of the whole book. But when I was first reading it, I was just like, so is this whole book just like different kids meeting different like monsters just over,
Yeah,
well,
it can feel a little checklisty.
Yeah,
and I
a little
think
bit.
we talked about how the structure, how King thought it was kind of a mess last time. And I was like, well, I don't know if it's a mess. It seems very purposeful, the table of contents. But I feel like this section is a little bit of a mess.
It's repetitive. It is repetitive.
And it's got flashbacks within flashbacks within flashbacks sometimes, and you're just like, wait, where are we in time again?
That's
how many
classic
times?
King, the flashbacks
and
within
King
flashbacks.
loves to do this thing where he sets them in a scene and then he dials back and shows you how they got to that scene, like when they get to the theater. And you're like, oh, wow, they're at the theater. But then how did they get to the theater? And you're going to find it back on the thing, which is fine, once or twice. But it's literally every chapter he does this. And that gets kind of exhausting because, like, you're at this action point and then you kind of have to, like, put back again and be like, well, we're going to get there in a second. And let's just, like, go through some sort of story building. And a lot of it's really interesting to his credit. So that's where he kind of gets away with it. But at the same time, it's just like, oh, God damn it. It's like in Lost when you used to, like, which is probably why he was such a huge fan of it, when he wrote it for Entertainment Weekly. But it just keeps like, it's like, it starts with like a scene. You're like, oh, yes. And then all of a sudden you hear like, and you're like, no. And then you go back and you're like, oh, all right, well, I guess we went back like a day before this. And he does that so many times. And I think by the time I reached the Bev chapter, even like something as simple as like, well, I hope the blood's gone in the bathroom. And then they dial back to like her making breakfast, her getting ready. And then she finally sees the bathroom. And it's just like, oh my God. But I get it why he's doing it because there's a lot of storytelling that he's putting in there and a lot of narrative and a lot of characterization.
Yeah.
So it's it's nice, but I wish it kind of shake it up
it's
a little bit.
effective, but it gets formulaic. And I love what you're saying, Katie, about like part 2 and part 3 are actually structured very similarly. That whole idea of each one is sort of a mini horror movie that kind of goes along the same route. I almost found part 3 where they're grown-ups and they return and then they kind of all go off on their own.
And they all, once again,
Exactly.
the same thing happens. Yes.
They all have their encounter and it's cool, but I remember reading it and just being like, Jesus. And then now that I'm beyond that, he's deviating from that structure, and I think it really helps the book by that point. So
even in the chapter titles, though, you can tell like we start with Ben Hanscom takes a fall and Bill Denbrough beats the devil, which are references to like the part 1 chapter titles. But then he's like, "Yeah, I'm sick of this," and it just totally abandoned.
One of them missing, A Tale from Summer of '58.
Yeah.
So, in sort of offering up a recap, but also a deep dive into the characters as to where they are now, let's move into a little section we like to call Heroes and Villains.
I'm gonna have to kill this fucking clown. Welcome to the Losers Club, asshole!
So, chapter 4, Ben Hanscom takes a fall. Let's start with Ben. Let's talk about Ben. I guess that's the neat thing about it is we learn so much more about the characters within every kind of part and section. The characters are fleshing themselves out more, so it's not necessarily... Heroes and Villains, I feel like, is a cool way to revisit the people that we are finding. So Ben, I love this chapter. It's a very lengthy chapter because...
Oh yeah, this might be the longest one, I think.
Yeah, I mean, this is where Ben really kind of steps in as, you know, maybe the co-protagonist to Bill. Like, I mean, everyone kind of... If there's one thing I find kind of almost sort of grating about this book, it's how it's the worship of Bill. Like, I get that Bill is like their leader and he's great and he's wonderful, but man, the worship of him in this book is
every kid at one point is like, I would die for him.
Wait, it's me being what, Mike?
Being self-deprecating. This is your character here. You got to rep him.
Look, I'm a flawed person. I don't need to be deified by people.
Hey, look, when I wake up in the morning, I'm just like, oh God, what is Randall doing? He'll have the answers. It is, but I agree with you because it does get exhausting by the end when they're like, yeah, you know, Bill's got the answers, and then like Eddie says it, and then Ben says it, and they're like, yeah, let's go find Bill.
I know.
You know, it's just like,
so that's why I love that we spend so much time with Bill or with Ben here, because I feel like he to me is the more interesting character. I think Bill is awesome and I love him, but I think Ben is somebody who is, you know, like I said, I relate to him a lot. Here we see him on the last day of school. He is kind of prepared for a summer of loneliness. He doesn't really have a lot of friends in Derry. He's pretty much picked on by Bowers the whole time. He meets Beverly. They actually have a meaningful interaction. And then, but he also comes afoul of Henry Bowers here and finds himself in being pursued by him and Victor Criss and Belch Huggins, the bad boys. And so he hides out in the library, and then that's where he writes her the poem, the classic poem.
He does, and I love that he like takes his time and has to like go back and get more paper because he keeps messing it up. I think what you get with Ben here is kind of what you're saying, where he is kind of like a bookworm, very similar to Hanlon in a way, but there is like sort of a gentle demeanor to him, and they bring that up in a lot of ways. Like, I mean, King basically says, man, for a very fat kid, he was like, for a fat boy, he's able to like get around really easily and silently. But what I love about it is there's a gentleness to him that is both like physical and mental. Like he like even the way he kind of reacts with like the librarian, like, you know, and you find out later on in Richie's chapter where you know, Ben is a lonely kid. Like he just wants that sort of, not even an acceptance, but just someone to have a back and forth with. And the back and forths you do get with him here when he has a chance are really nice. Like I love this little exchange that he has with the librarian in this, when it's just like, oh, hey, you know, Ben, would you like to do the summer reading program? And he's like, yeah, sure. That's exactly what I was coming in for. And the way he's methodically like looking at each different book, like he is I do like that King spends a little bit more time with Ben here, because I think there is something. There's something really complex and also intimate about Ben and the way he's written it, which makes me feel as if, similar to Bill, King also feels a kinship to him. And, you know, and I don't really know too much about King's like real youthful like upbringing, like, you know, before high school and all, when he was like a child. But I have to imagine that he kind of suffered a lot of the same sort of, you know, for lack of a better word, ailments that like Ben did, where he just kind of feels like the outcast in the way that maybe he did have some sort of demeanor that's similar to Ben, where he just felt as if he couldn't connect with anyone.
Well, Ben's father...
I feel like part of the biggest appeal of Ben is that he is so surprised when these things start happening because he hadn't conceived of them before. Like, King does not make a point to have him be a self-deprecating, lonely kid who is yearning because he's kind of just moving through the world happy with what he can get. And I think that's really part of why he's so charming. And the same thing with his weight. I feel like I don't even know how King did this, because I was probably so tempting for him to make his weight so central to what he thinks about, but it's not.
Right.
Like he likes candy and it's like a comfort thing, whatever. We think about it as much as necessary, but he doesn't like hate himself all the time in a way that I think would really bog down his character. He's like just so pure.
He does, but he also doesn't in a way like all right. So as someone who like, when I grew up, I like the reason why I do have some sort of parallels with Ben, and I've joked about it on the podcast nonstop, is that like I was really overweight as a kid, like to the point where like that was pretty much what everyone defined me as growing up. It was just like, oh, there's the heavy kid down the street, and like there are some things that King welds in here that seem to come from like a personal reflection. Like there's a section that and it really like I kind of like actually teared up on it, was on page 178 when he says, actually, when he goes, Beverly was a sweet dream. The candy was a sweet reality. The candy was his friend. So he told the alien thought to take a hike, and it went quietly without causing any fuss whatsoever. And this is just him he acknowledges that he has this sort of like addiction towards like eating, and then it's an escape for him. It's a compulsion. And I can't tell you like how many times where I remember we were sneaking away to McDonald's, or I would steal a 20 out of my mom's like purse and stay home and feign sickness and then order like Pizza Hut. It was also because I really wanted the Casper toys, but I also would order like a pizza and I would just sit there and eating it and knowing that like this is wrong and I shouldn't be doing this. Like, why couldn't I just have a PBJ and just like go on with my day? I was like, no, but I want it because it made me feel happy, because everything else and going on in reality wasn't making me happy. And there's that sort of dichotomy that I do think comes from a personal sense of place. Like, I don't know. I mean, granted, every storyteller can write something that's very intimate and all, and they don't have to experience it. But there's something about these lines and Ben's relationship to his own weight that seems so intimately connected to King.
Yeah,
for some
I
reason
gotta agree that I think there is some sort of personal insight there, or just that the way that his weight does relate to his character in a way, because like you were talking about, like, yeah, that's something that I've like dealt with in my life too. And it's like something that I like to think about is I'm going to get a little off topic here. In Roxane Gay's book, Hunger, she talks a lot about like eating and weight as like a zone of safety. That like eating compulsively can be like creating this like safe zone around yourself, and you're almost kind of like burying yourself to keep yourself safe when you have like, an addiction to food like Ben does in the book. And I think that kind of reflects in the way that he is just kind of like he's keeping himself safe from the outside world, and that's part of why his character isn't super tortured.
Yeah. No, I
love that.
100%.
Yeah,
I do too.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and I guess what I love too about Ben is the way that we get to spend time with him. We spend a lot of time with characters when they're alone in this book, but we see Ben. I feel like when Ben is alone, it's not just he happens to be alone. We see that this is a person who is used to spending time alone and having to entertain himself. And what I love about the sections where he's wandering around, going to the library, hanging out under a tree, is that we're just watching the ways that he entertains himself. He's not on his way to meet friends or waiting to meet friends. He's just like existing in his place, And I think, and the thing is, his dad is gone, right? His dad died in the war, or his dad is away at war. It's one of those things. But he lives with his mom, and
his mother's young and coughing, and has a hard job. And he's worried about like being an orphan. So they're
and I wonder if there's that connection to King too, because King, and his dad was absent as well. So it's interesting stuff, and I think that it also just watching him be so comfortable, like, in his skin and in being alone. I think that's what makes it so even doubly harsh when we see Bowers and his gang not just bully Ben, like they don't just follow him and like throw rocks at him or something. Like, Henry literally pulls out a knife and starts carving his name into his stomach. And it's over just like a school-related offense. And it's something that, and this is where, I'm going to talk more about Bowers later, but it's to me, there's such like a pure sense of evil being put upon such a pure sense of good in Ben, who is such a pure sense of good. And I think that this book, like a lot of King, really does clearly differentiate between good and evil. And this is one of the more purest forms of that, I think. Like, Ben is the kind of kid you look at and like the only reason you would make fun of this kid is because he's overweight. Like, he has done nothing to you. But Bowers, like, his sense of, bullying, it transcends mere ego. It veers into sociopathy and cruelty. And that's something that I think is so unique to King in the way he writes bullies. And so to inflict that upon Ben is something that is, it makes it register as more than just sad and like kind of like pure tragedy.
It's funny. So like last night I went to go see Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, The Dream Master.
Oh, the best.
Directed by the
great
best
Rennie
of the
Harlan.
franchise. And the funny thing about that movie is that literally in one 3-minute scene, it might even be less, it's just them in a parking lot, and you literally learn everyone's powers and sort of things that like define them. Like, oh, someone like it's like hilarious. It's almost like it's like tongue in cheek and self aware. Like someone comes by and they have like a calculator, like a calculator. Thinks, well, I got to get my test ready. And then someone's like, oh, I just love working out. And then like and so you just get all their character to defining moments.
Yeah.
And in the first episode, I talked about how. And we kind of meditated on the idea that did Nightmare on Elm Street, there seems to be a parallel between Nightmare on Elm Street and it, in the sense that like Pennywise is very similar to like a Freddy Krueger, where he like brings out your worst fears. And I also think, to the flip side of that, there is something very similar to the later Nightmare films in this book, in that everyone has their own definable characteristic that is some sort of power, or some sort of trait that's going to either propel them on in their own narrative or work as something that's going to counteract against Pennywise.
Yep.
And what I love about these chapters for sure is because it feels like, unlike the anecdote that I shared with Nightmare on Elm Street, King spends, I would say, almost the majority of the book building character.
Yeah.
Like you just learn and learn and learn about character as
so much setup. Yeah.
It's just so much. And that's
There
why I think people are so drawn to this book, because it really is just a portrait. It's just, and you kind of want more, because it's like, oh God, you've known so much about these. I mean, you know everything about these characters by the end, that you just feel so intimately connected to them. And with this, what I love is that with Ben's chapter, and you kind of see this in the other chapters, as we mentioned, that's there's a formula that King works on. You start figuring out what separates them as personalities, but also their strengths. And one thing I love about Ben is very early on in this chapter, when he's just thinking about how he's going to deal with Bowers with the test.
Yeah.
And that gives you such an interesting like connection into his own way of thinking, that it really does, because he does that with everyone in the next chapters that are going on. And we could talk about it, as we go from character to character. But I really loved that, how King was able to do that and weld it into, so you learn that Ben has this very mathematical mind. Go for it.
I agree to a point. I feel like there is a point with both Eddie and Ben where, Ben with the dam and Eddie with the compass in his head, that it is sort of explained away in a very fatalist, like it's like, oh, it's just fated to be this way. Ben just knows how to build the dam. Like, we don't actually get into the mathematical workings of his mind. It's literally just King saying, like, he's meant to be an architect. And I wish it had gone a little deeper, instead of just Ben being like, well, I just knew how to build the dam. It seems borderline supernatural and not something ingrained.
I think it is. I think it is something supernatural, because they often talk about how they're like fated to be there.
And I will say though, I do agree with you, Mel, in a lot of ways, and I agree with you, Katie. But I do also think that sometimes when we're young, like, I feel like if I'm good at one thing in this world, I'm a pretty good writer. And there was never a moment, it's like I wasn't obviously a brilliant writer when I was young, but it was something that I just started doing without really considering it. And it was something that I started sharing with people before I really thought about it. And so the idea, it's like when Ben is presented with the opportunity to build a dam, it's not like he has anything to draw necessarily. It's just something he is naturally good at. He understands that. And so, I can see what you're saying.
Anyone who can build a dam would be able to explain to you why the mechanics of the dam are doing what they're doing.
Yeah,
Instead, he's just like, put a board there. I don't know. It's going to work. Like,
My thing is, I thought Ben's reasoning for his quote unquote power, as I'll put it, was very, I thought it was actually fairly detailed and hinted at, with like when he talks about how he loves like erector sets and he loved the Lincoln Logs growing up and everything. I agree on the Eddie thing though, which we'll talk about later on. Sure. But because I just felt like that was like, well, what is he going to do? Oh, I guess he has a compass in his mind. He's able to drive through Boston. Wait, what? Like there's no setup in that for Eddie per se. But with Ben, at least you do get the sense that he has spent so much time on his own and working things out, because and I love that you mentioned latchkey kid, because that's that's like what I've always is like drawn to. Like I love that term, is that he is a latchkey kid. Like his mother works, so he is alone a lot. And I do think that sort of process of building things on his own, like a way that he does at least hint that there is some sort of childhood element even before these events that did have something to do with building, that's structured enough for me to go, oh, okay, that's fine. It is later on when you start learning about the other powers of people, you're just like, okay, what the hell? Like, you're just welding this in at this point. But,
Sure.
I don't know. I don't mind that because I feel like that also ties in with how they forget what happens in Derry when they go away.
Yeah.
I feel like those are all tied into the same sort of like power, which, you know, it's all the turtle, man.
Yeah.
It's all the turtle.
It's all the turtle.
The turtle flies by and it's like, compass.
We do get a lot of those moments here that are like he was pushed, you know?
Yeah.
Toadash.
Let's move on. Let's talk about Bill Denbrough. He's beating the devil on his bike. And is that his special power, is riding his bike?
Yeah, he loves riding bikes.
Because Jesus Christ, do we spend a lot of time following him riding a bike?
I don't know. I think maybe a little bit him getting the bike,
Yeah.
and him finding the bike again. And yeah, and there's times when he describes riding the bike and it's just like building momentum and he's like, whoa, what's happening? Like, I don't know. I think maybe the bike is his power a little bit. That and
his leadership.
Well,
the bike is a metaphor for him taking on things that are too big for a child to understand. And that is
works.
Bill's whole deal.
Yes.
I would say, well, I mean, he talks about how, I mean, another thing, obviously this goes into like the hook of the book, in that the sense that like the way that we either conquer fear or we find escapes to kind of, navigate away from fear. It seems as if a lot of people's strengths happen to be the way that they channel fear of their own selves. Like, I mean, Bill he writes books, but he writes books because that's a way for him to compartmentalize like what happened to his brother and all the horrors that happened in Derry. And you almost see that hinted with Richie as well when he starts doing voices, because he starts doing the voices really well when he's actually at the point of hysteria with Pennywise. So I almost feel like these strengths that they will eventually take with them outside of these towns or grow up with them seem to be influenced by something that was what happened to them as in their youth. And obviously with Bill, he's the writer, but I don't really know how, I mean, that doesn't really explain per se what his strength is when it comes to fighting Pennywise. Maybe that's because he's able to design these stories, he was able to kind of have that leadership and that sort of intuition, maybe.
Yeah, I think when Georgie says that Bill is good at seeing, Bill is always the one to make a sort of silent final call. There's a couple times in this section where people are like, well, I looked at Bill and Bill told me that like this person belonged and this person didn't. He just kind of knows, he just makes these decrees and people look to him because he sees things.
And I guess what I like about Bill is that the character is not written with a sense that Bill is fully aware of that power, you know? It's like, and that makes him more likable. Like, I don't think Bill necessarily sees himself as like, maybe he understands like deep down in that turtle sense that he is a leader. But I think that he never asserts himself as, or like, treats the other kids like he is their leader or their sort of superior in any way. And I think that King writes Bill with such, like, I don't know, like a tenderness that makes him really appealing, very sweet, and just so friendly. Like, I mean, I think there's so much, empathy and likability that's drawn for Eddie and Bill when Ben sort of stumbles in bloody and all messed up, and just how immediately they work to help him and comfort him and take him in, and they're not suspicious of him whatsoever. They understand. And of course some of that is Turtle, and I'm sure we're going to go back to that a lot this episode, is be like, well, that was probably Turtle. But it's like, there is this sense that there is a kindness, and a sense of wanting to help somebody.
Yeah.
Real quick, we hadn't discussed in the last episodes the parallels. I mean, we know that Bill is kind of like a Mary Stu for Steve King, but there's that thing that Stephen King doesn't really like to talk about in his past where he doesn't remember, but he might have seen a person get hit by a train, and people have posited that this might be where his stories come from, like this early trauma. And I feel like he's trying to work something out about that with Bill. Like, there's the car accident or whatever happened to like maybe cause his stutter. And then when Bill is thinking about, the whole time I was writing about Derry, like I could never remember, but all these books came from this deep subconscious place where I experienced this trauma. Like, I think Stephen King hates talking about this thing because he doesn't remember it. Like, I think his mom tells him about it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a lot.
It feels very connected.
There's a lot, especially like whenever we are getting Bill as an adult talking about his writing.
Oh, yeah, totally.
It's so King. Like, it is so
I
King.
actually tried to Google, because he talks about, well, his process, and when people ask him where the stories come from.
Yeah.
And he basically says, well, I can't say they're just like mental farts. I actually Googled and tried to find like if King had ever made some sort of speech about this, about his own writing, and then he sort of, ways with like the press, and I just couldn't find anything. But I did, it felt so, all that stuff, especially in that first part when he's talking about how he went to college and everyone was just giving him shit. That is literally King just being like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you to all his like professors at that point. 'Cause,
Well,
I mean, it's 86 or 84, it's like 81 to 85 when he's writing this. And so he's like at the top of his game, in terms of blockbuster power.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he's just like,
way
I made it.
The way he writes about this, the funny thing is, when I was reading the stuff that King was saying about being in college and the way he was responding to his creative writing professors and the quote unquote experimental work of his colleagues, like in college, I thought all that stuff was in writing or on writing. Like the stories, like that story about like, somebody writing something where all the words spelled out to some anti-war sentiment. I can't remember. And he's like, how is that a story? I thought like the thing was that had seared itself into my mind that was something he had written about in On Writing, and I haven't read it On Writing in many, many years. So I wonder if that was just a real college experience that maybe is in.
Oh, I'm sure it's yeah. And the other thing is like I feel like when Bill is talking about his writing and where he gets his ideas, that question that he dreads, he is spouting what King says all the time. He says, they're from this like deep, dark place, these baser primal impulses, yada, yada, yada. And I think that is what King actually believes. But Bill eventually rejects that conclusion and says, oh, wait, no, it's actually from this crazy shit that happened to me when I was young. Like, it's not this deep subconscious thing. So I feel like this could be King trying to be like, well, maybe I haven't reckoned with some of this trauma. This is very presumptuous on my part.
It's interesting though.
But I love that. And that's one of my favorite aspects of this podcast is trying to figure out where King welds himself into this. I mean, it started.
Well, I mean, it's clear with Bill.
Yeah, I think Bill and Ben for sure.
Yeah, him and Ben too. Yeah, Ben too. Definitely,
and definitely, Bev's dad.
He's bad.
Yeah.
I want to jump back just a little bit, only because I realized when we were talking about Ben, I feel like with each of these characters, we should probably talk about because every one of these chapters, like Katie had pointed out, like there is the Pennywise experience, like what was it that happened? And with Ben, we get, he kind of has these two very creepy, moments with Pennywise. And I just want to hop back. And one, he has a dream where he's dreaming of playing baseball with the other boys in the vacant lot behind Tracker Brothers Truck Depot. And it's just this like kind of creepy dream that he's having. And then he says, King writes, and then he had looked out towards center field where a chain link fence marked the boundary between the cindery lot and the weedy ground beyond that sloped into the barrens. A figure was standing in those tangled weeds and low bushes, almost out of sight. It held a clutch of balloons, red, yellow, blue, green, in one white-gloved hand. It beckoned with the other. He couldn't see the figure's face, but he could see the baggy suit with the big orange pom-pom buttons down the front and the floppy yellow bow tie. It was a clown. And that's the dream he has. And then later he has his first experience in probably a section that I think I have a little bit of cemetery for it. But it is extremely creepy because I don't know, have you guys ever like walked home like in really horrible, I mean we live in Chicago so clearly you have, but like walking home like in really horrific like winter weather and being completely alone, and like almost everything, at least for me, everything that you see sort of in the distance is kind of spooky.
Yeah.
Like I love that story of Ben walking home and all of that, and then he sees Pennywise out on the ice holding the balloons, but the balloons aren't moving in the wind. They're just like they're stuck there, and then the clown slowly turns into the mummy.
Isn't it weird though that, okay, so in that sequence, which always struck me most throughout this whole book is that, he does turn into the mummy, and he also, there is a clown that's literally standing on the ice, but the only thing that anyone ever brings up is the balloons went against the wind. Like that's like the one thing that they always bring up. It's like, I mean, it's like, I don't know if there's this clown haunting me, but I mean, Ben says the balloons went against the wind. I mean, it's just like, it's such a specific detail that I was like, there was a mummy that was running after him. Like,
yeah, but a mummy could be a kid in a costume, but the balloons not moving.
That's
means
physics,
something
Mike.
truly
it just
unnatural is happening.
So here's a question I'm going to pose to the group. If you were walking around, it's Chicago. Let's say out in the outskirts of Chicago somewhere. And like over near like that weird river or the lake part on the North Shore where it gets close to Evanston. You're walking around there. It's like January, and you see a clown standing on the ice. Are you going to notice those balloons that are moving around? Or are you going to see like, why the hell is there a damn clown on the ice?
Yes, you see the clown and you go, what the fuck? And then you see the balloons, you go, what the fuck? And then you run away.
You see the clown and you go, it's some weird ass guy in a suit. I gotta get my ass out of here. And then you see the balloons not moving and you say, oh, wait.
Even after it turns into a mummy and starts running after you?
Yeah, because I feel like that's the exact tipping point at which you're like, oh, the police will not be able to help me with this.
The reason that it's so important is the balloons is the part that lets you know that this is not like a weird prank or a crazy person. This is like truly inexplicable.
Yeah. Well,
so Mike, does that answer your question?
It does answer my question. Thank you very much. I personally, it might be something I would think about later on.
I do wish we got a little bit more of why Ben is scared of the mummy in particular.
Yeah, I feel like that. Like we clearly know why Richie is scared of the teenage werewolf, but I mean, I guess all kids are scared of the mummy. But
well, yeah, I just figured it was always just movies they had seen. I found that rather charming, actually, and like how Mike sees Rodan.
Yeah.
Yes.
I found that very charming about how like they're kids and so they see scary movies and it freaks them out, and so like that's the thing that they see. I found that very like kind of a affectionate, cinephile thing almost.
Oh, totally.
For Ben, it's like we get no build up though. Like we aren't told before he sees the mummy that he's seen the mummy and he thinks it's very like that's his monster.
But later on, when Richie invites him to the movie theaters, he does say, "I love the horror pictures." So or the monster pictures, but that's later. That. So that is later on. But maybe that's kind of like him going oh shit, oh.
I will say though, I almost find what's in the miniseries, the experience Ben has, to be almost spookier than this. Because remember, he sees his dad out on the Barrens.
Oh
in the
yeah,
water, and then it turns into like a skeleton, and then it turns into Pennywise. Like it's kind of silly, but at the same time, like the way that it's like this man like waving in a military uniform, but waving in a very robotic kind of way.
Yeah,
it's very spooky to me.
Here's a question, Katie.
Yes.
Since you said that you would watch The Shining as a child,
yes.
If Pennywise was haunting you, would a Jack Nicholson with an axe be running after you, or what would be scaring you?
No, it'd be a Frankenstein coming up the stairs.
Ooh.
Because when I was little, I used to lay in bed and think about that and freak myself out.
Wow.
Would it be the old style Frankenstein or like
the original?
So not De Niro.
Did you guys discuss this on the last episode?
so not De Niro.
Yeah.
No, if I was a kid, that'd be my personal Pennywise. Because I remember being very scared of that when I was real little. Because like my bed looked out onto the staircase that came up the stairs.
Oh God, that would.
And you'd see shadows, and I had seen I had seen Frankenstein, and I would think about Frankenstein coming up the stairs and freak myself out. So that's what it would be if I was little.
How many times did you wake up in the middle of the night thinking that you heard footsteps on the stairway?
A lot, and sometimes it was my parents.
Yeah.
Did you guys discuss that? Like what yours were on the last episode?
No.
We should. I love that question. Mm-hmm. Like for me, because like as soon as you asked her that, I started thinking about it, and for me, it's scary stories to tell in the dark. Story that there's a story about a person laying in bed. Mm-hmm. And they see a thing with red eyes in the distance, and every time they close their eyes and open them, it gets closer. My bed faced the window, and I could see out, and I was always, that was my biggest fear, was that something would like, I'd see something in the distance and it would come closer and closer to my window. And just what I love about that scary story is not only does it get closer and closer and closer, it comes in the room.
Yes.
It comes in the room, climbs through the window, and then she says she feels its teeth going into her neck. Yeah. And that always terrified the living fuck out of me.
Great elementary school book.
I know. I stand by it. I'm so glad I read it.
Wasn't there another one with a window? I feel like I highlighted the section where Ben is scared of seeing the mummified face in his window, because there is another scary story to tell in the dark where a like mummy face appears in a window.
Ugh.
And there's the picture of it that like that scared the shit out of me.
I remember the picture, yeah.
And there's another one in the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark that where the two guys are standing outside in like the cold, and they see the thing like standing across the street. And it just keeps coming towards them again and again. I think they're at a post office, and it was really creepy. It was like, as a kid, there was a post office that was on the outskirts of town that I would have to always go to, especially for when I was law clerking. And it was, I remember just like looking out in the distance in this field that was nearby and being like, did they write this story based on this area? This is insane. No. But yeah, there's something about being in the distance that's really
that would be mine. What would be yours?
Oh, mine is you're gonna laugh at this, and I think I've already talked about it on this podcast, but it's Abraham Lincoln. I remember, so I was a huge fan of SNL. I was a huge.
That's amazing.
I was a giant fan of like Saturday Night Live growing up. Like 86 to 94 is like probably the most important comedy of my life. And like, so I would read everything that had to do with any of the cast members. And I remember one anecdote that Dana Carvey shared where he said that he saw Lincoln's ghost when he was invited to stay at the White House. And for some reason, that just struck me in such a way that I would have these vivid, lucid dreams that are very similar to described in that documentary that came out a couple years ago.
Oh, The Nightmare, yeah.
Yeah, and I would have this dream where I would be in my room and there was a wooden sliding closet that I have that they would just have like the like very similar to like E.T. And there were just these wooden sliding doors. And I remember waking up almost every week. And I would have this dream where my parents would be waking me up and be like, no, Michael, it's going to be okay. It's okay. With the chains, that we have the chains. The doors would open up and these swinging chains would be there. And this guy would come out just like the tall guy in It Follows. And he'd come out with the top hat. It would be Abraham Lincoln.
And it was Abraham Lincoln.
And he would just stand at the foot of my bed and just stare at me. And I would close my eyes and then I'd open up again and he would still be there. And then my parents would be gone.
Oh, no.
And I remember when we went to go visit my cousins in Virginia, and we had to go to we went to Washington, D.C. I had an anxiety attack that looked like the guy from Mulholland Drive, where we walked up to the Lincoln Memorial, and I literally crashed down on the stairs because I could not go, because it's this giant Lincoln.
Yeah.
And so I lost my mind.
I think you've been having these horrible nightmares about for years.
Horrible nightmares. And it's the top hat, it's the beard, it scared the hell out of me. And it's still that's
a scary, I mean, that's like, that's Babadook. That's
man.
So that, even though he's one of my favorite presidents, but it just terrifies me. It terrifies me.
The shit out of you.
Yeah.
Mel, how about you?
Oh, good question.
What would be your Pennywise monster?
Are we talking about now, or if I was like 10 or 11?
When you were young, when you were 10 or 11.
Yeah.
Probably like a person who was hanging. I was very scared of people of opening my closet and finding a hanged person inside, especially after reading Salem's Lot too early.
Oh yeah. Well, that's like that's easily the scariest part of the whole book for me.
Yeah.
Is because he doesn't describe that much. It's just enough details to get you really like, oh god, what the hell did he see?
No, that's very spooky, and that's definitely something that just that the grotesquerie of the image is something that I think I had, and that's like you see that in film and stuff so much too that it can really. Well,
it's funny because that Mel, you bring up that scene from Sixth Sense a lot.
Yes. Oh my god, I hate that scene. Oh god.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So let's move on. Bill's experience with Pennywise
personal,
and it's one that we see both in both film adaptations, and that's where he goes to look at the photo album with Georgie. He finds Georgie's photo. Georgie winks at him, and the way it's written is so creepy because it's like a slow wink. It's not like a quick, like cute one, like with like a little ping sound. Well, that's kind of what I love about, because if there's one thing that I criticize King for a lot, it's sort of when he has like wisecracking ghosts or like laughing ghosts, things like that, like where his ghosts are a little too clever for their own good and they're not scary. And like, so the winking is always something that's kind of silly to me. But the way that he describes George's wink in this is that it's a very slow wink, and then the picture starts oozing blood, and that to me is like really, really freaky. And what I think they do so well in the miniseries that the way they describe it in the book too is when he throws the photo album, it continues to bleed, but then his parents don't see the blood, but it leaves that sticky dark residue on the ground all around it that only him, and because then Richie goes with him later to see it.
It's a metaphor.
So let's move on. We get sort of an interlude with the next chapter, chapter 6, and it's called One of the Missing, A Tale from the Summer of 58. And here is where we learn about Eddie Corcoran, who is one of the kids who got killed. We get a very extended intro where we see all these news articles, and we see sort of how the deaths of these children are playing out in the media within Derry. And there's something kind of really nefarious about it. The whole idea that everybody blamed his dad for it because he had an abusive father, and then kind of the history of what happened to his dad, and basically the whole family is ruined. Which
is something that would so happen in real life.
Yeah,
it would just be like, well, there's this thing, and then actually, I don't know why I said that, because this doesn't there's the supernatural stuff doesn't really happen in real life, but.
But I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Though. I know what you're getting at. And what I think is neat is what that section does with the newspaper is it really frames how the death of these children is tragic enough, but it shows how the death of these children, sort of the tragedy itself snakes out into the families themselves. Mm-hmm. Like we even see how Bill's family has fallen apart. Like after Georgie's dead, his parents become like shells.
They don't even play the piano anymore.
Well, and like his dad is such an asshole. His dad is like a fucking monster. Zach.
Yeah, Zach is.
He's a
cool.
dick. He's such a dick. And
Zach should go to a therapist.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Zach needs.
But also
therapy
the Eddie Corcoran bits it's just a good bit of King having his own back and protecting himself from the questions of like, well, why doesn't anybody notice these disappearances? And it's because the town is so fucked up and tainted by their own problems that are amplified by Pennywise's presence that like, yeah, the stepdad actually did murder the other kids. So like, of course we're not going to spend too much manpower investigating this crime.
Yeah, and I love that that's so important to this book too, is showing how the town is so fundamentally corrupt. And I think that I remember when the It trailers came out, the very first ones for the new one, we were excited on the pod because a big part of the trailers was showing how the town seems like fundamentally corrupt.
Because I don't know
more than was in the actual film itself. To be honest,
I actually agree with you. I wanted more of that, and because we only get little bits of that in the miniseries, but I felt like at least in the trailers and some parts of the movie, they were trying to emphasize that the town is turning a blind eye to...
Well, the town is a character itself.
But
it's true, though. How would that work?
but it's everyone's ignorance. You know? And a lot of that, plays into the reason I mentioned before, where like the losers have a strength because they decide to conquer their own fears, and like whereas everyone in the town just kind of couches it, they just put it aside. They just like even like the concept of Bill's parents not liking rock and roll seems to be such a counterintuitive to change to what's going on in the country, and like that seems to be almost a thematic element that King puts in there as well. It's like these are closeted people that don't want any change, and they are going to fight tooth and nail to not see it. And so I kind of like, I actually really like this chapter, and I actually think this is the most frightening chapter out of everything, because I think what happens to Eddie Corcoran is just genuinely frightening.
Well, especially because he's so powerless.
Yeah.
And what happens to him is genuinely out of a nightmare, which is, I think, how King wrote it.
Yeah.
It's a scene from a movie, and...
The Gill Man.
I know.
Another cinephile touch.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And what I love about it is that what we get is that moment right before he's killed. King has that moment where, from Eddie's perspective, he says, none of this is fake or a dream or an apparition. This is a real living monster that is about to tear my head off.
It is lifted almost word for word from Danse Macabre. Like, you remember Stephen King saying the first movie monster that got to him was Creature from the Black Lagoon, but it was okay when he could see the zipper running up the creature's back.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is a literal subversion of that entire section.
There is no zipper.
And I think, sorry, Eddie, but I think it's important that we do see a kid die, because otherwise it keeps the repetitive nature of the book, where they keep having these encounters and running away.
Yep.
The main members of the Losers Club, they encounter Pennywise, but they keep getting away. I think it's important that a kid doesn't get away.
I agree.
That's so true. Yeah.
I absolutely agree. And that's one of my biggest concerns with, going into the movie, was just like, well, nobody's going to die. We know they're not going to die. And in fact, like, not to go too much into the movie, because we're going to have a whole episode devoted to it, but, when you see when Stan has, like, the mouth that's all on him, a part of me did wonder, I was like, are they going to kill him here? That would be at least a surprise, like, because we know what's going to happen to these kids.
Well, that's why they put the Hochstetter scene in there.
Yeah. But either way, I absolutely agree, and you because it allows you to see the true evil of Pennywise. 'Cause otherwise, it just kind of seems like latter era of Freddy Krueger, where he's just having fun.
Well, and he keeps raising the stakes, like we've talked about before. Like Georgie's death is already setting the tone of like, okay, shit, like any young person, like as young as 6, can die, and then we get like, oh, it took like a kid off his trike, and now we get like, it took a kid whose brother has already been murdered, whose stepfather beats him. Like there is no degree of like moral punishment. There's no degree of morality here at all.
No.
The people who have already been beaten on the most in the world can still just get fucked up by the Gill Man. Like,
and also
so
like
bleak.
with Eddie too, he could have run away. Like that was the thing, was he had opportunities to run, and it was, you know, because we see, and I think that's what makes it work. Because later, you know, we see, you know, Bill and Richie running away from the Wolfman, and it's like right on the verge of grabbing him. And a scene like this with Eddie, where he is almost he runs, but then I think he slams into a tree, or he slams into
the bench gets his in his shins, which is like oh god,
that hurts
it's
so much.
It's just so fucking visceral the way that they kill this kid, that it's just so unforgiving, and it really does set the tone for like when the chase scenes do happen with the other kids, because you know that this is going to be like painful as hell if he does get you.
Yeah, the writing in this section is amazing. I have some cemetery later for it.
I do have like a quick note.
Yeah,
couldn't have chosen a different name than Eddie.
I know that was a little weird.
Like it's just, I know that, like, granted there are multiple kids that have different name, you know, the same name. I know because I was basically a government code growing up, Mike R. But like, it's still like, you're writing a book, you already have a character named Eddie. You could have even said Edward.
I know.
Like, it just seems so like you couldn't. There's no other name. Like
Jimmy.
Tommy. There you go. Let's just pull a hat.
Oh, this'll really add some verisimilitude to the book, because as we know in real life, sometimes there's just 2 people with the same name.
It's just like, it seems so, it was frustrating to me, like, because I just kept picturing Eddie for some reason, even though I know it's not, and whatever.
So King pivots. He actually does a really nice little pivot here from Eddie to Mike discovering sort of the scene of the crime when he was young. He sees the drag marks in the grass, he finds a bit of clothes, he sees some blood, and that leads us to kind of a childhood story of Mike, which is sort of his first encounter with Pennywise, if you don't want to count him finding that body. But oh wait, no, because the bird actually happens before it. So his dad tells him to go out to the old ironworks. Which,
why would you ever?
He wants him to get a souvenir
from the place where several people died in an explosion. Yes. Have fun, son.
Many children.
Many children died. That was actually one of the scariest parts of the new movie for me, was when they did that zoom on the head up in the tree in that photo of the ironworks.
The scariest part of the movie for me.
I love that. So, but yeah, so we get Mike. He goes out to the ironworks, and I don't know, this was a section that used to bug me a lot when I was young, and maybe it's just that whole concept of you know, the uncanny nature of something that is very small suddenly becoming very big. So Eddie goes out into Mike goes out to the ironworks, and then he encounters a gigantic bird. What is it, a sparrow?
Yeah, it's like a weird dusty giant
the
songbird.
Bird that follows Mike?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought...
I could be wrong. I might be... Oh, no, I'm thinking of sparrows because of Dark Half.
Yeah.
Well, he compares his feathers. He compares his feathers to a sparrow's feathers.
Rodan.
Oh, yes, but I don't think it's exactly Rodan.
Not.
But
it's the size of Rodan.
But he mentions Rodan.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where the fear comes from. Although his dad does mention in the black spot that he saw the bird too, which is very neat. And so...
well, he has like the most developed relationship with his parents.
Yes. And I love those sections. But yeah, so... I love this section with Mike and the ironworks with the bird, because it's such a unique place to have sort of a showdown, and also the idea of a bird like killing somebody. You know, obviously we've seen it before, Alfred Hitchcock, et cetera, but a giant bird, there's something just very neat about that, and especially like ones like the kind of things that you know, like if you're Stan, you take photos of, and they're very harmless.
Well, hey, as Roland Emmerich told us in 1998, size does matter, and I think that in this situation, having this giant colossal thing in a field where nobody's around, is just it basically is taking the visual metaphor to its nadir. Like, I mean, like, you have this giant field and you feel as if you are so vulnerable, and having this you are like a mouse at that point. And that's why
Yeah.
I think he describes it as he's like almost like this giant thing was like going to be able to pick him up like it was a field mouse or something. And that's very terrifying.
That's so scary.
The thing I love about Mike Hanlon in this is that what you really learn from him is that he is, again, like with King welding in all these little strengths of the individual characters, his strength seems to be that he is willing to search for answers, and that he is going to continue to keep, plowing like the field, looking for the source of whatever it is that is confronting him. So like even when he goes to the original scene where the crime where Corcoran kid had died the night before, he finds the knife.
Yep.
He's even telling himself like, don't do this, but he does it. And it's that sort of quest for truth that really does inform his own character. And it also is why, and we also find out why that is because his father had like drilled him with all this history, all that sort of research, all that sort of that trivial knowledge that he gets at the town that I feel kind of builds up his own constitution of being able to seek out the truth.
Right.
I might call him the Fox Mulder of this group. But
no, I think those are great points, and I think it is his relationship with his father that really does pursue him to answer the tough questions. Because when Mr. Chips, his dog, gets killed by Henry Bowers and Butch Bowers, like who live nearby and do not like them very much for many reasons, and they do poison the dog. There is that question of they're like, well, we don't know that Henry poisoned the dog. It could have been an accident and this, but what Mike knows deep down, he's like, and like what you said, he's like, don't do this, because if I do open the door and say no, it's pretty obvious that Henry poisoned the dog. You are opening up the door to a certain kind of evil. You are allowing that evil to exist, and I think that's the same thing that he's doing here, and that's why probably he's the one who stayed in the town.
Well, exactly, and again, it's like it's all King giving these great reasonings for where we're going to go, which is like where when we finally get to the adults, we have a total understanding of where and who they are, like who they are and where they represent in the story. And I love that deductive reasoning in his head. That's very similar to Ben's previously when he's trying to figure out how he's going to handle Bowers. You see him how he's handling these artifacts. Yeah. And the fact that he's prompted to go to this area, to the standpipe, right?
The ironworks.
The ironworks area. Is to find artifacts, is to bring something back, a souvenir home. So there's a great character building in this.
His dad is saying investigate the history.
Exactly. So
which is cool.
Yeah.
But then he finds a bird.
He does find a bird. Now, if you're in this situation and there's a giant bird, all the characters. One thing I really love, and this really is emblematic of people that grew up with bikes. Would you get on the bike immediately, or would you run with the bike? Because both people run with the bike, like Bill and Eddie. Well, Eddie and Mike, they both run with the bike and then they get on it.
That gives you a quicker. Yeah, I think that gives you a quicker start, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but you got to be good at that jump.
I know you got to be. That's the danger of it. Is like you got to land that jump.
Because if you fuck it up, you're screwed.
You're screwed.
And there have been many situations going up where I would screw that up. And
where you were running from giant birds?
Well, it was definitely giant birds.
Well, let's be real, Mike. You'd have your skateboard, not a bike. So.
I would have my skateboard. So I'd be skateboarding on like the rocky terrain and be like, "Why isn't this working?"
I will say though, I am so freaked out. Just the image of this old overturned silo, thing, like the pipe, Mike running into that, and that it dead ends into the ground, and he is trapped, and the bird is like trying to jam its beak in, and just it's the descriptions. I think I have some of it written down for Cemetery later, but it's the descriptions that King puts in there about the bird. He makes the bird so real, and that's what I love about it is he's so committed, and I wrote this down like 100 times in my notes. He's so committed to showing that this is not an apparition created by Pennywise. This is an actual beast that is physical and sentient and will kill you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's so cool. Mm-hmm.
And the sense of place is just wonderful.
Yeah.
The way that and this is going to be in the word processor for sure, is the way that he describes that sort of unnatural feeling of seeing a time past.
Yep.
And knowing that there are memories and history here and you can almost feel it.
Yeah.
Is so... it's so true, because we've all been to historical places. We live in Chicago, for Christ's sake, where the whole city burned down, and you can go to places and you feel that presence. And I thought that King does a really good job in being able to portray that sort of lingering notion that awful shit happened here.
Yeah. That's why I think that's part of why I like the character of Mike, because he is like the tie to that. You know, he's the living tie to all that sense, which I really like in the book. The whole sense that like that this is a very deep pit of history.
Yeah.
And it seems genetic. Like his father is drawn back to Derry for reasons that are never fully explained. Right. Mike even asks him directly, like, why did you come back? And his dad is like, there was that fire, and I realized that bigotry was everywhere. It's not worse in the South than it is in the North, and like, but it's never really answered. It's just kind of like, well, something drew me, and that's where we are.
Yeah, his dad basically looks up to the sky and is like, "Hey, you got an answer, Steve?" It's like, not this time.
Well, I think what a chapter like this really epitomizes, and what we're saying really speaks to it, is that this is the heavy lifting that King has to do, especially in this section. Is he's not just developing character, like you say, Mike. Derry is a character in this,
totally.
and so
it's like New York
so
City.
We all agree, Derry is itself a character.
But it's like, these histories, these tragedies, like the ironworks and the black spot and things like that, they all matter, and he is weaving the town itself into all of these different stories. And like even Neibolt Street like carries a certain kind of like historical legacy within the town. It's not just a creepy house, and so I think that that's what's really cool about these chapters. Is it's not just building the characters that we know, but it's building this town, and then especially we have a whole section about the sewer system in Ben's thing, which is really boring, but at the same time it's also very important.
It's necessary.
It's so necessary, and it really speaks to why like Pennywise has also been able to hide, and the fact that he probably had a hand in,
he's got to deal with the Comfort Inn.
Well, it makes the town very real. I always wondered, and like maybe I just totally made this up, but I used to think that this book included a map of Derry, a Tolkien style first page,
I have
map
it on
of
Kindle,
and I wish it did.
Yeah, this edition doesn't, and you have the same one, right, Mike?
Which edition is that, Mike?
It doesn't in this one. This is the Scribner.
Yeah, I
think I made it up. I don't think any edition has a map.
I think you're thinking of Jurassic Park.
I had one. I had that one. I can't remember what it was. It was a paperback that had the kind of Pennywise with the wavy lines hair from back in probably the 90s.
Yes, I remember
that one did not have a map either.
That's the one that I read initially. That I tore the pages out and put them all.
Oh,
across
really?
the
Mike
world.
has a whole story. When he first read it, he was traveling with it, and it was so thick that when he finished a page, he would tear it out and throw it out. And so his pages are littered throughout the world.
When I was at Sundance, when I was at South by Southwest, when I was at like
you were in London,
overseas in London. Hey, I was like Bill. So
it's true. So let's move on. We were talking about the house on Neibolt Street, and that is introduced in the next chapter, which is The Dam and the Barons, chapter 7. This is an Eddie-focused chapter. We begin with him coming into town, and he's reflecting on. Well, it's actually kind of fun. There is kind of a fun reference to silver dollars, because he's like, "Oh, I always carry them for tolls." It was just a fun thing I noticed when I was revisiting it, because then he's like, "Why did the silver dollars matter? Why did they matter?"
And a lot of people have these little sort of like reasonings.
Yeah.
Like I think there's at one point like Richie even says something, or even. Maybe Richie or Bev, the way that they describe something is like, I wouldn't have said that. Like, why the hell are I saying that?
Yeah. Or even just like sayings like "bet your fur," which is like what Eddie would always say.
Yeah.
Like that's neat stuff. So he's remembering the dam as well, and how Bowers and them like destroyed it and everything. And I just love the phrase "real baby dam," which is what Victor Chris called their dam. But we get this is actually where Richie and Stan kind of really enter the story in earnest. They come and join, and they check out the dam. And I'm pretty sure this is that's the next chapter where the Irish cop scolds them.
Oh yes.
For the dam, and because they're backing up shit everywhere. And so this is this chapter is where we're back at the dam. We're watching the friendship develop between all the kids, and this is where Richie and Stan enter. Stan is very quiet. He's defined primarily by his Judaism at first, and we don't get a lot of Stan early on. We're going to talk. I feel like I was saying this to Mike earlier, because Mike, you're revisiting it now, and you're like, man, there's just nothing about Stan here. And
until like the Bev chapter, you get a lot from
him,
you
get more. But the thing is, like, the deeper you get into it, and this is what I remember too, I feel like King was always trying to make up and speak to just why Stan killed himself. And I feel like, he has to really distinguish why Stan was special amongst all of them, because clearly he couldn't go back and face it. And it's not because he wasn't strong. It's because he experienced it in a way that the rest of them didn't.
Yeah.
And the way the miniseries gets at that is that they insinuate that he saw the true face of Pennywise like Bowers did,
which is also what the new movie does too.
No, not in the same way, though.
Well, not in the same way, but the reasoning is very similar in the sense that they are scarred in ways that
it's true.
Go deeper.
Yeah.
Than
you don't think that was always part of Stan? Like I feel like this chapter function, the Stan part of the chapter later does function in a way that tells us he was always kind of doomed just because of the way he thinks.
Because he talks about the offensiveness. I mean,
which I love,
which I do too. I love that whole reasoning of it, and it's very adult, the sort of logical reasoning in that. But
later in the book, I've just been noticing, and I can't wait to talk about it. King really, really shows that what Stan went through was in many ways more traumatic and deeper. And even his standpipe.
I mean, not in this section.
Not in this section. And although it is here, because I'd say his standpipe story.
Oh my God, that's the scariest part of this entire
It's like,
thing.
I feel like
so scary.
I feel like his experience was scarier than anybody else's and almost as dangerous. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll get there. So here we get Eddie, we get kind of a similar section to Ben where we watch Eddie just kind of on his own. And I love that we watch Eddie just kind of wander around Derry a little bit. Mm-hmm. And he goes to the more dangerous parts, and he goes to this rundown section, Neibolt Street. I always say Neibolt Street because that's how I thought of it when I was young, but like it is spelled Neibolt Street, so I'm trying to make
sure I'm right either.
There. I guess it could be either.
Yeah, it could go
how do they say it in the movie?
I can't remember.
I can't remember either.
But
I don't know if they actually say the name of the street.
Yeah, but what I think is so cool in this is that the leper was, well, it's not a leper because Richie says later he's got the sif and he's like so confident about it. Richie reminds me so much in this section of one of my best friends growing up, Jeremiah, who was my age. Like he'd be 10 years old, but he'd talk to you like he knew exactly everything about sex. Mm-hmm. You know, like he every time you said something kind of dumb, he'd be like, "You idiot! That's not how sex works."
Well, there's like that great. There's a lot of anecdotal Richie stuff in each one of these chapters, especially in like Mike's, where they jump ahead and they talk about how Mike was so innocent and doesn't even know like what sex is and stuff, and then like Richie just like shakes his head, just walks away or something like that, like because he's like so fed up with this conversation, and I just love that. Like,
and Finn was like that in the movie too.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So but what I love is we see Eddie actually, he actually has a real encounter. It's not a Pennywise encounter with kind of a hobo living there, basically saying, "Do you want a blowjob?" And he's saying that to this, 10-year-old kid.
I feel like I've mentioned this before, but King puts the blowjob like soliciting hobo in a couple places to the point where I feel like he has been solicited for a blowjob by a hobo and it really scarred him.
He can't let it go.
Do you think he did it?
No.
All right.
Not for that price.
Not for that price. He's like, well, I'm going to go to the candy shop right now. I'll see you later.
But I'm 10.
But yeah, so he actually has that experience, and then later goes back and it's so casual too. I was rereading this section earlier today. When the guy comes out, it's like he's just very casual about it. Like he's walking out with his nose falling off of his face, and he's just like, and he's just so casual about just like, hey.
So you think that's a real? You
the
think
first one, yes.
real
the
hobo?
first one is, yeah.
The first one, which is, and that to me is like super freaky because it happens so simply. Like it's just a thing that Eddie was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And
I will say what I love about this chapter with Eddie is that in addition to finding out that he can navigate Boston with no problem, I do love that they make a juxtaposition for him that you already know that he's like he's a hypochondriac.
Yeah.
But he does some of the most daring stuff that of any character. Mm-hmm. Like the fact that he goes to the house alone. Yeah. The fact that he just hangs out in these train yards. Like there's a lot of like really daring stuff for a kid that is terrified.
He goes
of the
under
world.
the porch.
Yeah.
Is he even a hypochondriac though, or is it Munchausen by proxy?
Yeah.
Oh, that could be.
I think that's true. I think that's a really neat way to look at it. He's
his mom just projecting all of this onto him, and there's
totally.
actually nothing wrong.
Right. And I feel like maybe there's it's a quiet little rebellion in him. And this is what Jack Dylan Grazer did so well in the new one. I love the kid who played him in the miniseries, but he very much plays him like he is his mother's son. Yeah. Whereas we see the adventurous part of him in the new one. We see the kid who is like straining to rebel.
Well, he wants to be like Richie.
Yeah, he wants to be like Richie, and he loves like he's still freaked out by everything, and he's scared of like what you could catch from the water and all these other things, but that doesn't stop him from doing it because there's part of him that really wants to spite his mother. And we see so much of that. Like that's actually something I had forgotten as I've been reading is we really get deep in his relationship with his mother in the book, and it's really beautiful, fascinating stuff because he is not just he is not so completely under her thumb. You know, he's like under her pinky and he's squirming and he's like trying to get out. And that does make the character more interesting than just kind of a little dweeb, which is, I think, kind of a little bit how he functions in the miniseries. They kind of play him a little bit too, 60-year-old man in a 10-year-old boy's body. And so, but that's what I like about this section is there is something daring about him. And so we do actually, and this is also the section where people begin sharing their stories about Pennywise. Yeah. Like Bill tells the gang about his experience. Ben tells him about his experience. Richie denies having an experience, and things of that nature. And same with Stan. I mean, that stuff eventually does come out, but it's fascinating to see sort of Eddie's actual experience, because I think in a weird way he was so scarred by the Neibolt Street thing that, you know, in a weird way it drew him back there. And it's like, what, you know, because we get so freaked out, and he goes back to almost dare fate to do it again to him, and that's when Pennywise comes up.
Well, this whole section, as we learn, you know, in terms of the whole part, are the kids just contending with the reality that's around them, which is that they have to make the hypothesis, and then they have to test it, and then they have to make the confirmation to be able to, like, all right, well, we're gonna have to fight.
Yeah,
like I bet, you know, by the end of this part, they all agree that they have to do something about it. And in a lot of these parts, they actually do try to do something about it. But, you know, especially later on in the Richie chapter. Yeah. But, you know, with Eddie really is like the first one where we kind of get that momentum. You kind of start to feel with this chapter that the story's really kind of surging ahead now.
The ball is rolling.
Yeah. Because like one of my favorite scenes of the new film is when all the kids are like on their bikes and they all just admit like, yeah, it's the clown. It's like, you know, I know I saw him too. And they do use that big time in the trailer and the first trailer and stuff too. And I love how they set up in this where it just kind of unravels so naturally. And I love that, like, again, like with Eddie, you get a character who could easily be such a shell, you know, like so fragile, but he's really not.
No.
And I do love that. I don't want to keep hammering in that point, but that was my biggest revelation of this chapter that I totally forgot, you know, upon revisiting, that he really is so daring.
He's so much more complex than he is on the surface.
Yeah.
And that to me is what and again, like, I know we're going to talk about the movie in another episode, but that is to me sort of the one of the biggest pleasures that I took away was how they sort of reworked Eddie, and they really, to me, got a great sense of the character. And that's why I'm stoked for James Ransone's casting in the second one, because I feel like that's a really unconventional actor to cast in that kind of role. Like, look at the guy they cast in the miniseries. I can't remember his name. He was a sitcom actor, but he, you know, he was very much kind of a dweeby sort of, you know, nebbish kind of character, whereas, you know, James Ransone has a real edge to him, which I really love. Yeah. Let's move on. Chapter 8, we go from Richie's POV. We begin there. We're with Trash Mouth, so Mike, you should be happy.
Love that. This is my favorite chapter, and not just because it's, you know, I'm aligned with this character, but I love Richie and his point of view.
Yeah.
I also love Richie so much.
Do you think he's funny?
I do think he's really funny. like we were talking about that in the first part, and that I don't think his voices are funny.
No.
But I love his interactions with things. And I actually do think that, because I used to think that, like, with the new film, that Finn Wolfhard just brought his own sort of attitude towards it.
Yeah.
And I think he does, but I think it's really very similar to this book, because he's so matter-of-factly about things, but then he's also just very, like, adult. Like, he has a very adult personality in the ways that he kind of deals with life. Like, it is so, a lot of things are very tongue-in-cheek, but a lot of things are they're laced with a sort of cynicism that comes with, you know, not adolescence really. Like, it really comes with, like, sort of like something that you would get in, like, later high school or even college.
Yeah.
You know?
I love the conversation he has with his dad, which is really funny. Like, trying to worm that money out of him, and the way they talk to each other is very adult and also hilarious.
That is one of my favorite sections of this whole part.
Yeah.
Because first off, it's such a relief to have a parents that actually aren't, like, just
I know,
monotonous
right?
zombies that, like, hate their kids in their life. Like, these parents actually seem like very alive, and
right,
you know, and I guess what we're supposed to take from that is that out of all of the losers, Richie is the one that is actually experiencing this stuff maybe firsthand, per se. Like, we're like, he's almost like the viewer in a sense of maybe the cynic, the skeptic, Because for a lot of the time, even when he's actually seen the stuff, he's still going like, no, that's not real. Even
Yeah.
after the book, after he's been shown the book and sees all this stuff, he's still trying to like kind of lean on his humor and be like, no, that's just not gonna, that's not real. That's not real. That's not
Right.
real.
That's a good point. That's a good way to look at it. Because I guess, you wonder, why is Richie the one who's so freaked out and not, so hesitant to actually say that this is real or agree with all of it. And I think it's maybe because he doesn't come from sort of a broken place like the rest of them. Like
he has a lot more to lose.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. In this chapter, this is where super Irish cop Nell comes and
super Irish
he's
cop.
so Irish to the point where it's like silly, and they even point that out in the book, and it still makes me laugh. But
then he ends by drinking out of.
I know, he drinks out of a flask. So he basically tells them that they got to break up the dam because they're actually screwing up the water. And then we get like another 13 pages about how the sewer system works. All from,
we do again.
All in his Irish lilt. And so
were you grossed out by this?
Oh yeah, because it's all about poop.
Well, yeah, and I don't like poop either. But
Poopy.
like they're all in the water and they're all having fun with this stuff. And when I grew up, we used to actually have a lake that was right behind a cemetery, and it didn't dawn on me until I got older that we were like swimming in like the decrepit corpses, like
corpse
runoff.
water.
Yeah, and so it was like corpse water for the most part. It was this place called Cliff Lake, which is very similar to the Barrens actually, and we used to hang out there every day in the summer. And it wasn't until later on I was like, oh shit, we have been swimming in this awful water. So as a kid, you're just like, whatever. But even like right now, like I don't even want to go into like Michigan because I think
Lake
of, like,
Michigan is disgusting.
There's a lot of dead bodies in there. That's
So it's just like when I was a kid. But with this, like I was like legitimately grossed out by the fact that like these kids like
We're playing in poop water.
Yeah, like it just like it kind of, and like the way that they described the gray water.
Yeah,
I don't know. I just the Eddie Kaspbrak in me was just starting to come out, and I was like, I don't know if I could do this. Like I would be like, fuck you guys, I'm going home. Like I'm not hanging out in the Barrens at all.
Speaking of going home, Bill takes Richie because Richie refuses to believe that this stuff is actually happening. He takes him to his home, shows him.
Well, Richie's like, well, let's see it.
It's Richie's idea.
Oh yeah, you're right. So Richie goes, he sees it, and I actually love this section, even though it's a little cheesy. But like when they see the photo and it starts moving, and they're like Bill's dressed like a little sailor boy, and Richie's.
Okay, now the first thought I had of this was, this is a great scene in Phantasm.
Yes.
Because you see the tall man, he's in old style gear, and it's this the photo moves, then it like kind of like, I mean nowadays it's kind of lame, but as a kid I used to think that was like the scariest scene.
Oh, seriously, yeah.
And I did wonder if King got it from that, just because it seems like such a. And I remember him liking Phantasm too.
Was Phantasm out when he wrote this?
Oh, Phantasm was like 1978.
Oh wow, I
forgot
about
Phantasm came out in the late 70s.
Yeah,
Damn,
so,
I always thought that was like an 80s movie.
Well, it feels like an 80s movie. But
I had forgotten that this part is a weird act of kindness from Richie because he is trying to dissociate the idea of the real Georgie from the malevolent Pennywise.
Yeah,
and he's like, we need to disprove that this is actually Georgie, even though it means it's going to be this crazy serial killer clown. And I just thought that was like, it was so touching.
Yeah, and that is sort of, I love, like Richie is so kind of, I don't know, he's not mean, but he's like, he's always he's trash mouth, so he's always trashing people. So when those moments of kindness come out, they really do resonate. Like even more so than probably when it happens with like Bill and Eddie and everybody.
it is kind of weird that it is through Richie's chapter that you find out Bill's true escape, because on like page 337, when they're actually coming into the house in this very sequence, King writes, his folks, they're talking about the how there was a typewriter in Bill's room. His folks had given it to him for Christmas 2 years ago, and Bill sometimes wrote stories on it. He did this a bit more frequently since George's death. The pretending seemed to ease his mind. So that's, I don't know, I just thought that was a little odd. That
I want to know what you guys think about this. He jumps, it seems like on the surface these are chapters belonging to each of the losers, but the POV is so inconsistent and jumpy, and like, I think it works because it would be weird not to get things from certain kids, but sometimes like this time you're like, hold on, I thought we were with Richie, or I don't know, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, I know, I agree. But I think it's one of those things where, he's going to have to weld in these details somehow. Mm-hmm. But this is such a personal detail, so to come through Richie's mind, because it is through Richie's, point of view, it's odd that they would actually have it as something that's in there and not in Bill's chapter itself. It's not, but he does that a couple of times, and I think it's just a matter of where the format is in this. But okay, so in addition to the sequence that happens in George's room, where we see the fingers getting cut, the whole portal, yada yada yada. There's another little horrific.
You can't yada 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 a portal.
I want to yada 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 a portal because we've already been here with the picture book before. So it's basically like the other. It's the same thing. The fingers get cut. Richie actually saves Bill. Bill's fingers.
Yeah,
he wouldn't be able to type and write as much if he didn't have those fingers. And what's the other? We find out another monster, another encounter with Pennywise.
Yeah, it's the teenage werewolf.
Teenage werewolf.
Love teenage werewolf.
But it's not Michael J. Fox.
No, it's Michael Landon.
But it's not even Michael Landon. It is a legit werewolf wearing Richie's high school, potentially future high school wear, because he has a Richie Tozier name tag on him.
Yes.
So Richie's afraid of puberty then?
Yeah.
I mean, there's something to that. I feel like, he's trying so hard at the outset before he goes to see these movies to be like, well, this horror is completely different than the real horror, which probably doesn't even exist. Like, I can go see these no problem.
Totally.
Well, this all comes from the fact that he goes on his first date for Bev is going
which
to
I
see.
totable forgot. I love that Richie
I love it.
is
I know,
Bev's
I love
first
it. It's
date.
so sweet. And he says though, he's like, I appreciate her beauty.
Yeah.
But he's like, he's not into her in that way.
No, and
which
he's
I
like,
think is very sweet.
But even then, he still steals glances because they're kids and they're figuring out their own sexuality, and they're kind of like, well, this is the opposite sex.
But she's just one of the dudes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she is, yeah. And like he even says, like, can you please not call it that, you know? And
Yeah.
even though in her head, and she kind of plays around with it, and she's like, oh, I'm just gonna write about this in my journal. And they kind of they're placating one another. But even in their heads, they are like, this is kind of interesting. So there is that coming of age angle that I love to that interaction between the three of them. Then you have to have, when you have Ben there that's dealing with his own love, and we know how much tortured he is with.
Well, I freaking love when they go to Neibolt Street and they actually go down into the basement, and it's like snap. Immediately the werewolf comes down the stairs. Like, I love that there's no build up to it. It's just like immediately thump thump thump.
It's like, what did you think?
I know, I love that. And
Yeah.
it's like a genuine real werewolf. They fire a gun off at it, and then like they run away
well,
screaming.
yeah, Bill has a gun.
I know, I love that. And he screams, you killed my fucking brother.
Yeah.
It's
But we
awesome.
know that Bill is not seeing a werewolf.
No. Yeah, what is he seeing again?
He's seeing the clown. Does it have Georgie's face, or is it just a clown?
It's something like that. I did not mark that section.
He's seeing
down.
a clown.
Yes, he's seeing
With
the
silver
clown.
eyes. Yeah.
Yes. And then Eddie's seeing the leper.
No, Eddie's seeing the
Richie.
werewolf.
Oh, he's I thought
Richie-
Richie was seeing the werewolf.
Eddie's not there. It's just Richie and Bill.
yeah. Oh, my bad. I thought
Richie
Eddie was
seeing
there.
The werewolf.
There's a few Neibolt Street encounters.
That's true.
No, I love it. But I absolutely love that section. And then Richie, the way that they kind of overcome the werewolf is with Richie's sneezing powder.
Yes.
Which I think speaks to sort of
Well,
the
it's
silly...
first it's the Irish cop voice.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
the Irish cop voice.
Which is interesting because we find out like that he's actually able to, because the whole time through Eddie and through even some other characters, we basically learn that Richie isn't really great at his voices. They all
Right.
sound like just variations of Richie's voice,
Right.
but they just kind of, they say, yeah, you're great, but he actually does a really good voice here, and it
Yeah.
sounds like they say it's not like Mr. Nell, but it's like an Irish cop that would, like a real Irish cop. And the werewolf is actually kind of stunted by it. It's like, wait, what? Like, I thought that was kind of funny. But I do love that they have the callback, which reminded me of like a Beverly Hills Cop thing where like, he has this like dusty powder and then all of a sudden it comes back into play and he's able to use it and all. I thought the chase sequence with this bike was legitimately frightening also.
Totally. I think
because
I have it in Cemetery.
just the feeling of it being right behind you and you feeling the breath is
Yeah.
just, oh God.
I think it's
When
the
it doesn't
scariest
stop.
part of the book.
Really?
Yeah, it's fun for
Interesting.
me.
Well, just like, yeah, and like do you the chase specifically?
Just the whole werewolf sequence and the
Yeah.
way it plays, and like in the fact that they are seeing two different things and incorporating the clown and how it, and it adds, the real element of you killed my brother and all this stuff, and it's very real.
Yeah. Even the way that he says that they when they leave the house, they're like, he's not going to follow us outside this lawn.
He
And then they
does.
turn and then he goes. It's like, nope, he's going to still follow. And then it's just like, oh my God, when is he going to stop following? And it's like, I guess there's this like assumption that when they leave the like kind of crummy area, it almost seems like there's a barrier, like it has to stop in some way, like because they look back finally when they get to the city streets, and you see this like orange blur, like which is where the the jacket or the clown suit was.
I know, I love it. It's so freaky. Speaking of freaky, let's move on to cleaning up chapter 9, Beverly Marsh's chapter. We begin with her, and this is kind of, I think, one of the more iconic sequences in it. I think because it served as such kind of a linchpin of both of the film adaptations, was Beverly hearing the voices coming out through the sewer, again showing how important the sewer is to Pennywise, hearing the voices, and that they're actually speaking their names, like the kids who have been killed, and that's super freaky to me. But here we get such a great look at Bev, not just the fact that she was an outsider at school, but we see the fractured family life. I mean, here her relationship with her father is, I think, I don't know, there's more nuance to it than there is in some of the film adaptations, and like he's actually still married in this one, and but we see sort of the very poor house that they live in and everything else, and I just love, I think the thing that really resonates with me here is the fact that this horrific thing happens where this blood bubble explodes in her sink. She hears all these ghost voices. Her bathroom is covered in blood and gore, and yet the thing she's most scared of is her dad finding it and yelling at her. You know what I mean?
It's ingrained in her.
I know. And that to me is like so sad and so powerful, and also just so reveals so much character.
But it's also prefaced by what happens when you see adult Bev and she's still apologizing and lying for Tom to her friend Kay, in which we find out that how adult Bev got from being on the streets without any shoes and no wallet or anything else, and being able to get on an airplane and being hit on by a hunk of blonde hair. But so you do feel, again, it's just like the Mike Hanlon thing. It's just like Richie, like King is really getting into the layers of where it started as a kid and how it still informs them as an adult.
Yeah.
And with this, it's far more like harrowing and like tragic than I feel like any other characters, because it's just, I mean, the brutality of her father is just awful in these chapters, and then just like how disturbing the sequence where she talks about how her dad would stand there like over her before tucking her into bed, and like how she relates that to how she saw her relation with other men. That's in Cemetery for me. But like,
I always found it interesting that this is her initial encounter with Pennywise, because it doesn't actually seem that she is in physical danger, and it really is a sort of scare tactic.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking about like what Pennywise's strategy is here, and it seems to me that it backfires because of the losers, but it is just like isolation, right? Like it does this huge gout of blood that nobody but her can see, and she thinks that she's going crazy and she can't share it with anyone, and it just mirrors the like abusive tactic of isolating people from your friends as well. And I initially was like, why is this so out of place? And then I was like, oh no, wait, it's like it really fits. And it's very scary for that reason as well. It's just trying to set her apart from everyone and make her totally isolated.
It fits her fear of her abusive father, but because Pennywise is using abuser tactics on her.
Mm-hmm.
That's really interesting. In this chapter, we also learn a little bit more about Stan, too. Since Stan doesn't get his own chapter, this is when she invites everybody over to help her clean. Stan is among them, and then he finally reveals his experience, which is he was at the standpipe taking photos of birds. A storm came, and then the kids who drowned in the standpipe emerge, and they are these sopping zombie-like creatures, and I have so much of that in the cemetery, which we'll get to later, so we don't need to go too
creepy.
deep into it, but it is because we're going to talk about it. But yeah, Mike,
no,
sorry,
go
Mel,
for it.
you go.
It's crazy that this wasn't even Stanley didn't even know that these boys drowned in there. It's not a deep-rooted Stanley fear. It's like Pennywise, like, well, I don't know, what can I use? Like,
well, but it also almost strikes me as that it's almost like Stan had the biggest target on his back in a lot of ways. That's like I'm like kind of obsessed in this reread with Stan. So
like he can't like find something that Stan would. I mean, Stan's not into horror movies. Stan doesn't he just has to go to like the real horrible history of the town and be like, well, this will have to do. And I think it says a lot about Stan.
See, I took it as him seeing his own future. In the sense that, because he says that there's a line that he says towards the end of this chapter in which when he's talking about like the difference between being scared and being offended, and it seems as if it's implied that this was one of him, like that there was a shared economy between the dead kids and where he is going to wind up.
Yeah.
And that he's already like marked, and that Pennywise knows that he's going to die. And there's almost like this implied notion that he's doomed.
Yeah.
And I think that doom is what essentially maybe is what really corrupts his mind.
Yeah.
Because it kind of plays into the idea of what he talks about with, knowing the realities of the world and having that reality shattered when something comes in and offends you.
Right.
And that's what's offensive to him, is the fact that now he knows about some of the other truths of reality, and he knows that the truths that we know aren't actually truths at all. They're actually these fractured, broken ways at which we look at the world, that there is a spectral nature to it. There is a more deeper level of understanding and thinking that we can't rationally think as human beings. And now he has to live a life knowing that life as we know it isn't what we know it. It's actually something far more crazier and bigger than we could possibly comprehend.
Right.
I think that ties with the fact that he knows that he's doomed.
Yeah.
But do you think the boys from the standpipe are connected to that? Like the fact that he drowns in the bath and they drowned in the standpipe, or he doesn't drown in the bath, he cuts his wrists. But like, I just feel like it's weird that this was chosen as the fear for him.
I think he stumbles upon, like, it's just him seeing the reality
like
of
the town.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, because my question, if that is okay, so did Pennywise choose him to show him like its true face then? Because if Stan is doomed because he sees Pennywise, right? He sees Pennywise' true form. That's what haunts him so much that he kills himself. So does that mean that he was chosen to be the one to see Pennywise's true face ahead of time, and that was like predestined?
I mean,
it makes sense. I like the idea of the target on his back just because of how he thinks, and he's so unwilling to incorporate this into his worldview.
Yeah, and it's like Pennywise can't just manipulate. He has to has to use blunt objects. You know what I mean?
Think about Stan itself, his character himself. He's very pragmatic.
Yeah.
I mean, even the way that he kind of comes into the bathroom and was like, okay, well, we need to use the rags. Like, there's no real conflict in his head of what it is. He just does.
Yeah.
And out of all the losers, he's probably the more steady, seems to be on steadier footing.
Mm-hmm.
He likes,
as long as that ice doesn't break.
Yeah.
Is that why him? Because it's extra cruel to take down the most stable of them?
Yeah.
It could be.
Absolutely.
Maybe he thought that, with Bill having that grief over his brother, that was already a character mark on him. And then Stan was really just like,
yeah.
I mean, the stability right there is kind of like, there's something that shakes the group in that way.
Definitely. Definitely.
And then maybe it's also could speak to, he has to work harder to get Stan.
Yeah.
Because maybe Stan wouldn't have, maybe Stan doesn't have ties to different fears that he had.
I feel like it's easiest to get Stan. Stan is the most fragile because he cannot have this worldview disrupted.
But it's but he thinks like an adult. You know what I mean?
Like instead of having it just be some sort of monster that gets him.
Yeah.
It's this sort of bigger revelation. It's almost like the revelation is what actually gets him.
Right.
Because in the end, I always thought that Pennywise is the one that prompted him to kill himself and stuff. But I guess it's that's not the case, and it was actually self-inflicted. I think it's this. I think it was that what he talks about. It's like how could you live reality when he knows that these things are there, and he tries. He tries to create that sort of family life for him, and he's happy with his wife. But once he knows that this thing's coming back, it's like he knows that those revelations that he had as a kid.
Yeah, he can't even accept it enough to fight it. He has to appreciate that it's real and fightable, and he just can't even get there.
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. So I think we're going to tentatively wrap up Heroes and Villains here. We've got plenty more to discuss, but that's going to unfold obviously as we go on. Unfortunately, Katie, our special guest, is a little too fearful to venture into the cemetery and the misery of this section of the book. So we're going to part ways with her, but it was so lovely to have you on. We were so happy to have you.
So nice to be here. You all are truly brave for going into the cemetery and confronting Stephen King's is Stephen King's Pennywise the fact that he cannot write less than 600 pages in a go? His own prolific nature is his Pennywise.
He is
believe
nuts.
so.
Michael Rothman, Melanie Castle, and Stutter and Randall Colburn will forge on ahead. Katie, thank you so much, and let's get miserable with Misery.
She died. She just slipped away.
Slipped away! Slipped away! She didn't just slip away! You did it! 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 You murdered my Misery!
Annie!
Yo, 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 in a bottle of rum. It's me, Stuttering Randall Colburn. And it's time to get miserable in a little section I like to call Misery. This is where we talk about the things in the book that maybe we didn't like so much. And I am going to start with a little bit of misery from since I wasn't on last episodes, I have to mention this.
Okay, go for it.
This is one of the worst lines that I have ever seen in a Stephen King book.
Oh, wow.
And it was in Eddie's first chapter in the first section, which because we're recording this at a time when you guys have yet to release that episode, I have not heard what your thoughts were. So I don't know if you mentioned this. I kind of found that whole chapter, all the stuff about him and his wife, I kind of cringed at a little bit. But this line, she grabbed his collar and pulled him backward, like a beefy cop putting the grab on a suspicious fellow who is trying to flee. That is a line that Stephen King sat down and wrote. A beefy cop, a suspicious fellow.
Yeah, I think at some point, when you're writing 1,200 pages, you're going to have some moments where you're just like, that'll do it. Let's just keep
He's like,
going.
that's what it looks like.
Yeah. I mean, look, that whole section is literally just painting, Eddie's wife as this monstrous human being.
Myra the dog.
I could not with that whole section. I get that, when King, that's why even though, Ben is such a well-written character, but King still just routinely delves in, he just makes his overweight. He just
can't help himself.
It's just so grotesque.
I know.
And he does that all the time. And the thing was, he does that with sort of he loves Ben, you can tell. So he does that, but it doesn't dominate the character. You can tell he hates Myra. So it's he makes it so grotesque. And she is a monster. And it's very unpleasant.
Well, there are moments in this where even through Bill's point of view, Bill's like, well, he's a fat kid, but he's all right.
Yeah. I know.
It's
Bill.
Weird. Who's this is supposed to be the source of goodness. I was shocked by that. And that's in Bill's chapter.
I know. It's so weird.
I don't know. That stuff is, his relationship to weight is very interesting to me. And, he wrote this in the 80s when he was still pretty heavy. I mean, he wasn't svelte king like we have today.
Because he wrote Thinner around this time, probably concurrently while he was working on it.
Yeah.
And Thinner was, the book where he was writing about his own struggles with weight. So maybe it was a little bit of self-hatred, who knows,
I think there's a lot of self-deprecation with King, and especially that's something we brought up in the first episode where, he finishes this book and he's like, oh, I don't want to write horror anymore. Clive Barker's, miles ahead of me. And I don't know, I've had maybe 2 or 3 good ideas my entire life. He becomes like Cameron Howe from Ferris Bueller. But I also love the self-deprecation that King has and he welds into these books, because that's something that most people I don't think people really get with writers, is that writers hate everything they do and they hate themselves the majority of the time. At least I do.
As a writer, I co-sign that statement.
Yeah, I mean, I love
someone living in a town full of writers. I also co-sign that statement.
So I don't know. For me, it's I do like that he has those kind of moments for me. The thing I did not,
I do think he actually does hate fat people though. It's not all self-deprecation. I think he thinks they are gross.
And specifically fat women is something that really haunts him. And maybe he just sees it as the neon demon thing of beauty is a currency in this world, and beauty happens to be such a feminine construct that I think that maybe he sees it as there's a dismissive quality to, and it's ruining a Monet or something or whatever. I don't know, but maybe that's just me theorizing it. Either way, the thing that drove me nuts about this is something I already brought up previously in this episode, is that when he starts pulling the punches and he starts he'll introduce something. He sets the table, and then he's like, well, we'll get back to that in a second, and we're gonna go wind the clock back. And again,
He's been doing that forever.
He does that forever.
I remember us in the Shining episode talking about that.
And he does this where it's almost like you get to see a preview of what's going to happen on the episode, and then all of a sudden you just have to go way back, and you're just waiting for that moment again and again. And to his credit, most of the stuff that he pulls back to is interesting, and he goes down some really awesome rabbit holes. But on the 5th or 6th chapter in this section, it gets exhausting to me. Especially when I got to Bev.
Yep.
And the Bev chapter, it was just like, look, we haven't really heard much from her yet, so I'm glad that we're getting a lot of characterization, but can't you just write this linearly, like in a linear fashion with this? Like, just give us this. Like, even then, I still think it works. It's fine. But at the end of him doing that 4 or 5 times before this, it's just like it started becoming very like plotting to me, and I was just like, I didn't want to sit there reading this anymore.
Mm-hmm. No, I hear you 100%.
My general misery thing that like I am so cognizant of now and just cannot fucking stand it anymore is how often people lose control, and either there's 2 things that can happen. One is they lock eyes and they start laughing because something bad has happened, and then they just laugh and they're laughing at each other and everything's so funny, and then something else happens and they laugh even harder, and it's friends having a good time. And the other one is they laugh because they're scared and kind of hysterical, and like Bev does it on the plane, and like it's just so much fucking losing control and laughing, either in a good way or a bad way. And I'm like, how much time did you spend between these sections not writing this book that you thought like, oh, and then I'll have them laugh because I haven't done that in a while? Because you have done it like every fucking chapter of this fucking book, and it's like driving me insane. It's
like at the end of Saturday morning cartoons where somebody makes a joke and then they all just laugh while the credits roll. There is so much of that going on, and I love the idea that, amongst friends, the weirdest things will make you all laugh together. But man, and I know that he's like kind of drawing their bond too, but there's so many, like similarly, Mel, there's like so many sections where like one of them makes a joke that's really not that funny, like it's okay. And then it just cuts to them like spitting and snotting everywhere and on the ground, just like laughing.
He loads each of these moments with equal poignancy so that you're supposed to be like, oh, it's happening. But like oh my God, I just can't.
I hear you. I think those are some miserable things. Mike, did you have anything else that made you miserable?
No, not exactly. I think that again, it's I feel like this is actually a pretty strong section, all things considered.
Agreed.
I think that.
Oh my God, I have a lot of stuff. Not a lot, but I have stuff.
Yeah, then go for it. Let it out.
I'll be
have
very
more misery?
brief. Yeah.
Oh
no, go for it. Yeah, bring it on.
Okay.
Kirsten Dunst.
There's a moment on page 2, and I'm big red.
Yeah.
There's a moment on page 259 where all of them looked up at the exact moment Eddie Corcoran died, as if hearing some distant cry.
The Donnie Darko moment,
A Star Wars moment. Okay. This is just a funny thing. He is talking about the bird and how Mike blows its eye up with a rock, and he says tiny parasites wriggled and squirmed in this pussy discharge, but it literally says pussy discharge. And we had to learn in the animal hospital not to write that, because it says you just say that there's pus, never use the word
pussy
pus.
discharge.
There's Richie's N-word Jim voice.
Oh, well, that's a big one. Yeah.
Well, that's that was pound cake for me, I guess. But
yeah, I couldn't decide where to put it, and I just eventually, because we usually do quotes for pound cake, I was like, I guess I'll throw it in there. But yeah,
I mean, I get it. Like,
it's the 50s.
It's the 50s. That would have been a thing that people with voices did. It's like what the comedians of that time did.
Like, not an excuse. Just don't put it in there.
I know, I agree, but I just, like, I agree with you. That's the whole thing, is like, just because they would have done it at the time doesn't mean that you need to put it there, especially when it's not important contextually necessarily in this context. But
and I actually can't remember if Mike ever confronts Richie about it. I haven't finished the book yet. We'll see, I guess.
There is a section where he does do it, and I think Mike just like cracks a joke about it, like, but like Mike shows, I can't remember I think I wrote it down, but that's for a later episode. But yeah, there definitely is a moment when he does it in front of Mike and Mike does acknowledge it.
Well, I literally heard the record skip when he does it, because it's like, it kind of reminded me of when I was little and I'm having a great time charming my dad and his girlfriend at the time, who is now my stepmother. And I remember making a really sick joke that was about the Holocaust, and I'm from a Jewish family. And I remember them all just like, we're all laughing, having fun the whole day. It was a great day. And all of a sudden I make this sick joke, and then they all look at me like, what? Like, why'd you do that? And it just like killed the moment. And that's what I kind of felt like whenever, well, you know, you're having this great time with Richie's chapter, and then he does that voice, and you're just like, ooh, let's just keep reading. Let's just keep going.
Okay.
You know.
So that's bad. And then we have Richie on page 335 of the Scrivener. Alarmed, Richie put an arm around Bill's shoulders after taking a quick glance around to make sure no one who might mistake them for a couple of fagolas was looking.
Jesus. But again, 50s.
Yeah, but
even the 80s when he's written this. Even the 80s when this is written.
Oh yeah, even in the 80s.
Because you have to contextualize some of this stuff to be like, all right.
Yeah, but I see what Mel's saying though. It's just like, you don't need to do that.
You don't need to do it, but here's the thing. This book was published in 1986, and even in the aughts, as recent as the aughts, I remember being in high school, and that was, you know, that homophobia was real, and
it was a
total rampant thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't.
Not that I don't even think it's not realistic, but I do think it is jarring in that moment. Like, I think it's a bad piece of writing in that moment.
Yeah.
Like, Richie at no other point is conscientious of this when he's comforting Bill in later areas. Like, I don't know. It just seemed like a point where Stephen King was like, I'm gonna make a joke and include this word.
Gay panic. It's an always a reliable form of comedy.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Oh,
or am I right?
Let me tell you.
Okay, finally, two more. We have Eddie sounded even more depressed than Bill. His mother had gotten them each a full day bus pass, he said, and they were going to visit Eddie's aunts in Haven and Bangor and Hampton. All three of them were fat, like Mrs. Kasprack, and all three of them were single.
Yes. To be fair, his mother does suck, but
I wonder if.
But if you're fat and single, you're terrible.
Oh, it's even worse. No,
how dare you? Continue.
Okay, last one, and probably the one that pisses me off the most, to be honest.
Save the best for
Richie,
last.
Richie looking at Bev. Perhaps it was the bruise that allowed him to see the possibility of her beauty, an essential contrast, a particular flaw which first drew attention to itself and then somehow defined the rest, the gray-blue eyes, the naturally red lips, the creamy, unblemished child skin. Okay, what?
What could possibly be your issue with that?
I actually marked that as not. I actually thought that was an interesting sort of contrast.
Because you're a man.
Well, because I am a man. It's male gaze. No, I just thought that was an interesting thing, because not for the reasons they gave, but for me, if I was in that moment, it would kind of give a sort of grounding reality to things, and I would almost find a beauty in that, in the sense of, here's a person that's willing to show a reality of their own life to me, and I would almost find that sort of intimacy attractive in a way.
That's not what Richie's doing.
And it's not, I know, but for me, seeing that contrast of being able to find beauty in it was something I don't know, I kind of felt in that way. But yeah, I mean, maybe the way that Richie's portraying it and seeing it is much different, but for me, there have been situations in the past where I have been definitely attracted to sort of the harsh realities of things that made me realize something about that person that I wouldn't have noticed otherwise, if that makes any sense.
I think what's going on here is like, oh, the wounded, battered angel. Like, it's the very fact that she has been wounded that draws out, like, like, make me barf. Like, that's gross.
Well,
like,
especially when you got a character who is so battered the whole book. You know what I mean? Like, because we see Bev endures a lot of violence in this book.
Mm-hmm.
And then to equate that with like making her more beautiful is like disgusting.
I can
like,
see that. Yeah. Woof.
I got one more.
Okay.
Can we get on the bike without saying the hi-oh silver thing?
Well,
like, you have literally like a demon and a beast running after you, and you're gonna go, hi-oh silver away.
I was laughing about that. Because I'm like,
to me is like the laughing shit. It's like every time, like,
and it's like he's even doing it when a werewolf is right about to claw his fucking back open,
which is insane to me. Like, no, you would get on that bike and be like, "Oh God!" Like, no, don't kill me.
Kill me.
Yeah, like not away.
I mean, I guess it's part of the whole idea of like, it's their imagination that makes them powerful. It's the childlike qualities of them.
I kind of dig the Hio silver away.
You know what? Then I'll take the bruises and you could take the silver. But no, I think that gets a little too cute for me.
Yeah. No, I'm
there's a lot in here that gets a little too precious.
I agree 100%. Anything else that makes you miserable?
That was made me miserable, and that's the sum total.
Gotcha. Mike?
I'm not so miserable, but I'm ready to get a little scared.
You get ready to get scared?
Mm-hmm.
That's great, because Annie Wilkes is dropping us off in front of the cemetery. Oh, creak open those gates.
What's the bottom of the truth?
Well, sometimes that is better. The person you put up there ain't the person that comes back. It may look like that person, but it ain't that person. Because whatever lives in the ground beyond that cemetery ain't human at all.
I love adding like a ooh, like it's so funny to me.
Yeah,
it's like that video of Danzig when he's showing off his book collection and he goes, "Ooh, welcome to my book collection."
Welcome to my book collection.
It's one of my favorite videos ever. Welcome to the cemetery. This is our section where we talk about what's freaked us out, what spooked us, what got under our skin. How did Pennywise manifest to really freak our shit out? There was a lot here that was very spooky. But I think that, and I know that we all kind of agreed that the Eddie Corcoran section was especially creepy, and I want to start there. Is that okay?
Sure.
I wrote down this section because I thought it was some really good writing, and I was reading this in my bed, and I've always been pretty freaked out by the creature from Black Lagoon. I'm always afraid of water things, and just the idea of like a humanoid creature within the water is very scary to me. And just the way that he writes this is very unnerving. So page 266 of my Kindle edition, no fancy one here. Then batrachian hands closed around his neck, and Eddie's hoarse cries were choked off as the creature turned him over. The chitinous hooks which sprouted from those hands scrawled bleeding marks like calligraphy into his neck. He stared into its glowing white eyes. He felt the webs between its fingers pressing against his throat like constricting bands of living seaweed. His terror-sharpened gaze noted the fin, something like a rooster's comb and something like a hornpout's poisonous back fin, standing atop the creature's hunched and plated head. As its hands clamped tight, shutting off his air, he was even able to see the way the white light from the arc sodium lamp turned a smoky green as it passed through that membranous head fin. That description right there is so like lived in and dark. And like, Mel mentioned earlier that he mentioned, Creature from the Black Lagoon in Danse Macabre. And clearly you can see how scared he is of this monster, because he gets so deep into just what it would actually be like to face a real version of this.
Which is so...
Which is...
It's amazing to me that he still hasn't done any like sea creature type stuff, because if he's so affected by... the creature from the Black Lagoon, like, why haven't we seen more like sea-dwelling things?
Maybe he's too scared.
He could be.
That's Peter Benchley's thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Right.
He never wanted to ape Benchley.
To that note, to piggyback on that, I thought the scene, like the table setting for the scene, was just genius. On page 264 of Scribner, he writes, "There was the edge of the canal, white as bone and straight as string in the moonlight. No sign of the thing from the canal, if there have ever been a thing. He continued turning, working his way slowly through a complete 360 degrees. Bassey Park was silent and as still as a black and white photograph. Weeping willows dragged their thin, tenebrous arms, and anything could be standing, slumped and insane within their shelter." Like, just that description of the stillness of that area was so real to me. And then for him to puncture that, like towards the end, a few paragraphs later, something was following him. Yeah, just that simple, the way that he just gives it his own graph, and that just I saw even Up Ahead when I was reading, and I was just like, I started
Yeah.
getting shivers just thinking about it. Because you do get this feeling that, like, all right, not only is Eddie just totally disassociated from any sort of comfort at home, but now he's like in this strange, bizarre, like, he's in the middle of nowhere, basically. And he has literally no one that knows where he is. And there's that sense of isolation from a thematic and literal standpoint is just so daunting to me. It's just like there was just no escape. And I don't know, that's why this scene really gets me, because it's just like there is just no hope for this kid.
Yeah.
He's just,
I will say the bird and the gill man are the two that I always kind of like laughed at as a kid. I never found them scary, just because I love Rodan. He's my favorite kaiju, and I love Creature from the Black Lagoon. It's my favorite horror movie, and I love Shape of Water. And so like I always felt sympathetic toward the gill man. But I had highlighted in word processor that segment that you read, Randall, because it's that fucking head fin.
Yeah.
And like talking about how the light passes through it that makes it like, oh shit, like this isn't that creature. This is something, I mean, the milky white eyes, like this is that made flesh and made hungry and made real and animal that, I don't know, he like really pulls it off.
Yeah. And I think that it makes me think of King as a boy, like looking at stills and magazines of the Creature from the Black Lagoon, like obsessing over the head fin or obsessing over the various designs, the animations of that body and what they would look like when they were real. And that's him. This is him, like, actually considering them as a part of, some creature's flesh. And that to me is just very, very unsettling. The bird too. I think I laughed a little bit about the bird when I was young, but it really freaks me out now as an adult. And it's like, and just the one line though that scares me more than anything is on page 284 of my Kindle edition, and that's just the concept of being trapped in the pipe if the bird were to die. And he says, but what if the bird got stuck? If that happened, he and the bird would die in here together. They would die in here together and not. Oh, sorry, 1 second. Pause. Oh, sorry, starting over. Page 284 of the Kindle edition. But what if the bird got stuck? If that happened, he and the bird would die in here together. They would die in here together and rot in here together in the dark. Like, that to me is just so fucking terrifying, because the pitch black of being inside that, and it's like, you're in some fucking like ironworks pipe, that's buried in the ground and like on the site of a space where like dozens and dozens and dozens of children died. It's like just the starkness of that is so freaky, and just this giant like bird creature. I don't know, that it's when the bird starts jamming its head into the pipe and starts making leeway, and the determination it has to kill him is so freaky to me.
Yeah, I agree. I think the pipe part is very scary. You actually have the same page numbers as we do, which is weird.
Really?
Yeah, you have the same. Yeah. I mean, unless you increase or decrease the size of your text.
I don't know if I do that.
I wanted to read the bit where I thought it was really... It's always hard with this book what to put in the cemetery and what to put in word processor, because I find that most of the disturbing, scary moments are also very well written.
I agree 100%.
So I feel like most of them could go either way.
Right.
But I thought it was really disturbing on page 237 when Bill is thinking about Georgie. Was it still the aftermath of George's death, the way his parents seemed to ignore him now, so lost in their grief over their younger son that they couldn't see the simple fact that Bill was still alive and might be hurting himself? Those things combined with the other murders, the voices that sometimes seemed to speak in his head now, whispering to him, and surely they were not variations of his own voice, for these voices did not stutter. They were quiet, but they were sure. Advising him to do certain things but not others? Was it those things which made Derry seem somehow different now, somehow threatening with unexplored streets that did not invite but seemed instead to yawn in a kind of ominous silence that made some faces look secret and frightened? He didn't know, but he believed, as he believed all the murders were the work of a single agency, that Derry really had changed, and that his brother's death had signaled the beginning of that change. The black suppositions in his head came from the lurking idea that anything could happen in Derry now. Anything. Yeah. I thought that was freaky.
I love that. That's so cool. Along the same lines as like some of the best writing is also some of the scariest.
Yes.
I felt that way about The Leper. that Eddie encounters, just like this section right here, which is on page 316. Like, it's just so grotesque, but I kind of love just how much he really leans into it. The skin of its forehead was split open. White bone, coated with a membrane of yellow mucousy stuff, peered through like the lens of a bleary searchlight. The nose was a bridge of raw gristle above two red flaring channels. One eye was a gleeful blue. The other socket was filled with a mass of spongy brown-black tissue. The leper's lower lip sagged like liver. It had no upper lip at all, its teeth poking out in a sneering ring. It's just like, fuck, man.
Yeah. And I love to that again, I'm going to piggyback on this one too. The earlier on when on page 312 when Eddie first encounters the hobo, and Eddie's like, I don't have a dime either, Eddie said, and suddenly thought, oh my God, he's got leprosy. If he touches me, I'll catch it too. His control snapped and he ran. He heard the hobo break into a shuffling run behind him, his old string-tied shoes slapping and flapping across the righteous lawn of the empty salt box house. Come back here, kid. I'll blow you for free. Come back here.
Ugh.
And that realization that Eddie gets of just like, you can get it too. It doesn't even matter if you escape out of there. If he touches you, it'll stick with you. Is just, as someone who is OCD and literally went home yesterday because he thought that a bird had peed in his on his hair. That is a true thing. I just felt something in my hair and I saw a bird go by and I was like, oh God, did something fall on me? So I like literally went home and ditched my plans of the day, which was I was planning to read this.
That was
book.
Pennywise, Mike.
It was Pennywise that got me. But that fear of catching something, and it doesn't matter even if you get away from this, that you can take it home with you, is that just startles me big time.
100%.
And then one of the other ones I had was, and again, like to your point of just like beautiful writing translating to terrifying writing, on page 338 when they talk about when Bill and Richie are going into George's room, and Richie, it says from his point of view, he looked around, fearful and intensely curious at the same time. The first thing he noticed was the dry mustiness of the air. No one's opened a window in here for a long time, he thought. Heck, no one's breathed in here for a long time. That's really what it feels like. He shuddered a little at the thought and licked his lips again. It's like the way that the whole Denbrough family has made George's room almost like the Schrodinger's cat thing.
Yeah.
Of like, well, let's not go in there because we don't acknowledge that he's either dead or alive. We don't want to confirm any details or anything. We're just going to hide the fact. But there is this thing that there is this old past that is just still haunting them, that is just in this room. And it's kind of like the feeling of The Exorcist. One of the reasons why The Exorcist scares me is not so much just the spider walk or, seeing Ellen Bernstein going nuts and getting furniture thrown at her. It's the concept or the conceit that you're still living in this place where there's a source of evil and a source of terror.
Mm-hmm.
And Bill lives in this house, and ostensibly his room is right next door to this room. So this room that is a source of so much horror and terror is constantly with him.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's something really creepy about this room that's untouched and in this house. And it kind of goes back to like The Body. I feel like there are a lot of similarities between this book and The Body in general.
Yeah.
Of just how the kids come together, but also just how the family deals with death and how they kind of, they're grieving it, but there's a silence that acknowledges the fact that they're kind of compartmentalizing it by just not acknowledging it anymore.
Yeah.
It's just like you're just trying to like go on with life and live this sort of silent life amidst all these truths. And the stillness of this room just that little passage just kind of really put that all to the forefront for me.
Yeah. I mean, just the whole relationship that Bill has with his parents is just so sad.
It's very similar to Gordy. It's
yeah.
just, he
should have been you.
Should have been you, Gord.
Oy.
What other cemeteries?
Standpipe, baby.
Oh, standpipe.
Oh wait, back up real quick.
Okay.
I just like the one where Ben is in bed and talking about the face in the window. That just like, I thought of that when I was a kid all the time because I had a window right by my bed. It's on page 218. No, they were not real. TV monsters and movie monsters and comic book monsters were not real. Not until you went to bed and couldn't sleep. Not until the last 4 pieces of candy wrapped in tissues and kept under your pillow against the evils of the night were gobbled up. Not until the bed itself turned into a lake of rancid dreams and the wind screamed outside and you were afraid to look at the window because there might be a face there. An ancient grinning face that had not rotted but simply dried like an old leaf. Its eyes sunk in diamonds pushed deep into dark sockets. Not until you saw one ripped and claw-like hand holding out a bunch of balloons.
Yeah. I love that.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to jump back, well, from where I was too. If there's one of the things that I love about Pennywise's dialogue, it's that oftentimes he says things that feel oddly specific, but I don't know why. And like, did you guys talk about how he calls himself Bob Gray?
We kind of did, but he does it.
So scary.
It's really
so
eerie.
weird.
And he does it here too with
Yeah.
with when Eddie encounters the leper.
Yeah. It's so strange to me. And it's something that really like gives me the shivers. But similarly, when Pennywise is talking to Beverly through her drain, there's a line on page 400 where he says, "You'll float down here with your friends, Beverly. We all float here. Tell Bill that Georgie says hello. Tell Bill that Georgie misses him, but he'll see him soon. Tell him Georgie will be in the closet some night with a piece of piano wire to stick in his eye. Tell him." Like that, like, it's such a creepy escalation. And just this whole, I guess like the piano wire harkens back to his mom playing piano, but it's just such a oddly specific image that arises out of sort of a pretty standard taunt. And I guess that's something that points to really good writing is King can take that. He can take something that is just, let's torture Bill by talking about Georgie, but just this whole like creating this image of Georgie in the closet holding a piece of piano wire and jamming it into his eye. That's just such like, it's that next step that makes King really special. And that really like freaked me out when I was reading it.
I mean, I think Pennywise is genuinely frightening in a sense. But I mean, again, just like the movie, the humans are just far more disturbing to me.
Yeah.
Like Al Marsh, there's something about revisiting this, and I don't know why. Maybe I just like kind of hid it away also, just like the losers do. But that whole, again, I mentioned it earlier in this episode, but the way that Bev has to like deal with her father, that enough that she has to sleep in a certain position to be able to not either look at the window or like at the door, is just the sort of the abuse that she has mentally in this is so haunting that it's just such an inescapable abuse. I mean, this, and King really does it well. Like, this is a really good job just making Al is this just really haunting figure. On page 404, her father tucked her in as he always did and kissed her forehead. Then he only stood there for a moment in what she would always think of as his way of standing, perhaps of being. Bent slightly forward, hands plunged deep to above the wrist in his pockets, the bright blue eyes in his mournful basset hound's face looking down at her from above. In later years, long after she stopped thinking about Derry at all, she would see a man sitting on the bus or maybe standing on a corner with his dinner bucket in his hand. Shapes of men, sometimes seen as day closed down, sometimes seen across Water Tower Square in the noonlight of a clear, windy autumn day. Shapes of men, roles of men, desires of men. Or Tom, so like her father when he took off his shirt and stood slightly slumped in front of the bedroom mirror to shave. Shapes of men. Again, we mentioned this earlier, but I just wanted to read that passage.
Yeah, I love it.
There's a really, especially with everything that's going on right now and the nation, the world. There's an intuition that King, I think, really has here of just how awful and scary men can just be. Like, in the sense of just they do become these almost demons.
Well,
in a way.
Tom,
And
like,
especially Tom. Yeah, I mean, eventually.
But that's why this section is so much better than the section with Tom, because he's actually doing the hard work of being inside Beverly here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Instead of giving us just like, well, I'm a man who doesn't want to be invisible and needs to show that I'm powerful. And like, that's A, boring, B, disgusting to live inside. C, just like, I don't know, no thank you. And then, but when we actually do get Beverly, and then we also get a little bit of the complication where she talks about the days where they walk together and he shows her things and she feels a very strong love for him, we actually get a much more nuanced portrayal of this terrible relationship. And I think shying away from that work with Tom does it a disservice.
Sure.
I agree.
I can see that.
I mean, the thing is, this reminds me actually of the scariest episode of the X-Files. To me, which is Irresistible, and
Simply
it's in this
Irresistible.
simply irresistible, and but Robert Palmer, love him, Johnny and Mary, but a great song. But my what's scary about that episode is that it's one of the first episodes in the series, and there's many episodes that deal with this, but they contend with Scully's Stockholm syndrome and the feeling that the feelings that she got when she was kidnapped by Dwayne Barry. Not to go too much on a tangent on X-Files, but it really deals with it kind of hints at that the person that kidnaps her might be a demon, but it doesn't really matter whether or not he is or isn't. It's supposed to show the point of view of a captive or a captor, and the point of view of a captive victim and what that captor becomes. And what happens is the person that takes her starts taking on qualities of this like hideous monster, and eventually they kind of, spoiler alert, they actually prove that he actually is a demon, a monster in a later episode. But in this one, Donnie Pfaster, who's the character, is just this. It just embodies all the evil things that we look at as a kid when they're monsters. And that's what I kind of reminded me here, is that somebody that should be this paternal figure, this guardian, is this awful, hideous thing. Mm-hmm. And she still, even the next section talks about how she does appreciate the love, that she still feels the love of this person. So there is this, like, you do get the roots of why she would be stuck with a person like Tom, why she might have these kind of strangled relationships. And again, it goes into what I've been saying this whole episode, is that King really does a good job in this part of the book explaining why the adults are who the adults are, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, what their fears are. And I think that for Bev, who we really haven't gotten much of other than just her relationship with Tom, and a lot of it is from Tom's point of view, which is kind of weird in that first section.
Yeah. And in later sections. But
like, so I this part for me was also just really sobering, and like out of all of them, just kind of hit me the hardest in terms of the portrait, just because you really do get to see how much of a tragic character she is.
Yeah.
Because there's just, I mean, even the conversation she has with her mother is really kind of eerie as well, because she's just like, did he touch you? And she's like, nope, never mind, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Did you anger
she
your
doesn't even know how to like parse that. Like she doesn't fully know what she means, even though she like sort of does. It's creepy. I was frustrated by the scene with Kay a little bit. I feel like King doesn't really know how to handle that kind of thing.
Well, he just goes full like Tom is pure fucking evil, you know?
Yeah, but to have her kind of like regress, which I do think is realistic, and her lying and being like, he didn't use the belt on me.
Yeah.
Like I think there just needs to be stronger.
Thinking, there's a later scene with Kay and Tom that I was thinking of. I know which one you're mentioning now.
I think that there just needs to be stronger connect. Like right now, the stuff with Tom seems very separate from the stuff with her father. They seem like different relationships, even though they're both crazy abusive and terrible. Like just because we get so much more nuance with the father and so much more of like the sense of duty and the sense of love, when we get to Tom, it feels way more shallow and just different to me, so that like I just can't really latch onto it in the same way.
Yeah.
And I got really frustrated by the scene with Kay.
I'll be interested to hear your thoughts on Tom later, because not in a good way or a bad way, but
he just becomes like a villain, right?
Yeah, that's the thing, is he's very much like, I don't know, I'm trying to think. I know that there's like other Stephen King like sort of characters that are very similar, but he just becomes he's kind of like Rose Matter's husband, you know, if you've read Rose Matter. Like,
I haven't.
Yeah, it's just like when King writes like an adult man who is abusive to women, it's
pretty black and white.
It's totally black and white, which in a way it should be, but it's a very hard thing. Like but this is the thing is in a weird way, he makes those characters function with a kind of evil similar to Henry Bowers, which we'll get to at the end of this section.
Yeah, I think that frustrates me. I think that is what frustrates me, because abuse requires the good to be abuse. That's how you get into the cycle of abuse.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why it works when you see it through Beverly's eyes, because you're getting that.
And with Al Marsh, because there are sequences. I mean, he literally shows you. He shows and tells here.
Yeah.
You get her own sort of thoughts on the matter, but then you actually see how he shifts. Like, why didn't you say it was a spider? And then he kind of like changes his demeanor all of a sudden. Yeah. And it's so scary.
That's a good point. And I feel like they do a good job with that in the miniseries too. I remember that the actor who plays Al is really creepy, but then there are a few small moments where you see that this is a guy who can pivot. You know, he can go from being kind father to being, something much more nefarious.
And King can clearly do it. He also does it with the Corcorans, right? Like, we actually get a repentant stepfather, even though he's like a fucking shitbag of a person. Like, we know that King understands that there is more than just being a completely one-note abusive evil person. So I just wish we had that with Tom. It just renders both Tom and Beverly a little bit flatter than I would like.
Yeah. I can see that.
Well, one really scary cemetery that I feel like we have to talk about.
What's that?
Is that last short story, basically, at the end of
with Black Spot?
the second interlude.
We got to do Black Spot and we got to do Standpipe.
Yeah,
let's get to the Standpipe first.
Well, yeah, let's do Standpipe, and then let's do Black Spot, and then let's do Henry Bowers. Because I got to talk about Bowers.
Well, why don't you talk about Bowers now?
You want me
to scares you?
I want you to go all in on Bowers. Let's do the Bauer hour.
This is the Bauer hour.
Yeah.
Bauer hour.
What do you want? I want to teach you something, Porky. You like to learn new things, don't you? Mm-hmm. I want to make sure you remember my name.
I'll remember, Henry. I'll remember.
How am I going to make sure?
Bauer hour with Stutter and Randall. Okay, I've talked about this in the pod before because I feel like it might have been in a Bag of Bones or something where somebody asked about like who our favorite King character was, and I probably said Henry Bowers. And the question is,
you like Ace Merrill too?
Oh, Ace Merrill. I've talked a lot about Ace. I think I talked about. Oh wait, I wasn't on the Stand By Me episode. Regardless, King writes bullies in a way that it takes what is here's the thing about bullying. It's been taken more seriously in recent years, but bullying was considered sort of a rite of passage for a long time. I think it's like bullying is just a thing that happens, and bullying is harmless. Like ultimately, like that's how I was raised. My dad, I've loved my parents to death, but I was bullied a lot, and my dad always kind of approached it with me like it was just character building. He's like, it happens, it's gonna happen. And the thing was, I was somebody who, when I was young, I didn't know how to translate the bullying that I went through. So I bullied other kids. I bullied the kids that were smaller than me. And because I was in that weird middle spot where like I was bullied a lot, but then I also had the currency to bully other kids who were not as confident as me or whatever.
I'm in the same shoes.
Yeah, and I've done some bullying of my own that I fucking like. It still haunts me at night. Like I've done shit to kids that when I was 10 years old or 12 years old that I can't let go of. And but the thing is, a lot of it happened to me too, and I had my own Henry Bowers, which is probably why this character resonates with me so much. There was a kid named Justin Kilgore that used to beat the ever-loving shit out of me all the time. He lived in my subdivision. He was a weird-ass kid. He used to like do weird and the thing was, I always wanted to be his friend because if I thought I could,
but the same with my own like Bowers type character.
I thought if I could just if I submitted to his abuse, that he would eventually be my friend, because when you're young, that's the kind of logic you use.
Well, that's how he has a Victor and a Belch.
Yeah, exactly. And Kilgore had what was that kid's name? Doug something. He had Doug, and Doug was the kind of kid who had guns and shit, like, and would walk around in his front lawn holding guns, and like, but Justin lived across from a friend of mine, and he used to always like bring dog food out and make me eat dog food.
Oh
like,
my God.
Yeah, like, well, he would say that he would eat it too and that it was good, but then I would eat it and he would like make fun of me. And then he's like, why are you eating dog food? And he did that to me a couple times. Like, even though like I thought you'd think that I wouldn't fall for it again, he kept being like, no, I was just messing with you last time. I like to eat my dog's food. And then he would give some to me.
What a nice guy.
He was awful.
No,
like this kid is awful. And then like, and he used to just beat the shit out of me all the time. And like, he used to sit behind me on the bus and spit in my hair. And he would tell me if I like let him do it, that he wouldn't pick on me anymore. So I'd be like, okay. And so I would sit there and he would just like, you know what gleating is, where you like spit water through your two front teeth, like in a little stream. Yeah. He would do that in my hair. And he'd go, if you'd let me do it for the whole bus ride, then I won't make fun of you anymore.
Oh God.
And then
so he really was a Bowers.
He was awful. Yeah. And like, that was the thing, was it was the kind of fear that I felt that I didn't want to leave my house, because he lived in my subdivision. Mm-hmm. And if he saw me on my bike, he would chase me and kick me off my bike. And then he would ride away with his friends and they would all laugh. He would do that kind of shit to me. It was a relentless like genuinely cruel. He had no reason to dislike me either. Like that was the thing, was I kept feeling like the only reason he didn't like me was because I was a loser. So I thought the only way to not be a loser was to like be like him or respond to him.
Yeah.
You know, and try to be his friend, because if I could be his friend, then I was cool. And so it was like, that was the hard shit about it. And
no, but that's honestly, I sympathize with that for big time.
Yeah,
because I had those same situations. We had this family, the Jacksimers, that were down the street from me, and like they clearly had their own demons to deal with and stuff. But there was a guy named Evan Jacksimer who I just
what a bully name,
a total bully name. But he was also kind of cool. Like he was into surfing, he was into skating and stuff, and he was also in like macabre horror and everything. So we actually like, in better times, we probably would have been a like really good like pair. Like, and we were good friends actually for parts of it. But there would always be that evil twinge that would come out, almost similar to like the Bowers thing, where he would just get mean, and it was always mean with other people. Like if it was just one-on-one with us, we were great, and we would talk about horror movies and stuff like that, and it was a lot of fun. But then he would turn, and then there was a couple other kids that. But the thing is the reason why I actually even start to like connect a little bit even more with Richie in this story is that I've always been a loudmouth. Yeah. And I've always gotten myself in trouble with me saying the worst things.
This always fascinates me. When you said that you got kicked out of classes, I was like, what?
And honestly, it was literally like the Richie thing where I just don't know when to shut up sometimes. And like, I would get in trouble in school, and I would get in trouble in like outside of school. Like in my neighborhood, there was this one kid, I'm not going to name name names on this one, but because he's a true bad person. He would have a Rottweiler that he would come over to our house, and he like was gonna spray paint. We found out later on that he was gonna spray paint like "Get out of here, Jews" on my like on my parents' like
what a nice guy.
Garage. Yeah, he was an awful guy, and he had a younger brother that I was friends with, and I would be hanging out at his house, and I would always get nervous when he would come home because he would always take his dad's gun or like his guns and stuff like that, and he would. I remember one time he like would play around with a BB gun and he like shot me, but I actually had a video game that I was holding and it hit the video game. Thank God.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it was crazy. But despite knowing all these things, I still would act like I would incite it because I felt if I didn't, then he would just keep doing it.
Right.
And so like, I just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And I would find myself either like one point, I remember one time I was walking home alone, just like Ben or something like that, or even and like, he saw me and I had said like I said something really awful to him because I knew that he was already making fun of me, and he came and was like, "What'd you say?" And I said and I told him again, and then he pinned me against the wall and like held me up, and he was like strangling me.
Yeah.
And he was like squeezing my neck to the point where like I like literally just had to start kicking and stuff, and I was kicking his chest as hard as I can. He just kept strangling me until finally like one of his friends stopped, and it was awful, but I never stopped. And like I just wouldn't shut the fuck up. Like just be like, just leave it alone. And that's why like reading
you're
this,
talking to yourself. You're like, don't do it.
Yes, and it was very Richie like, and that's why like it's kind of funny rereading this again, just being like, yeah, I guess if I would have just been quiet, I would have been fine. But to your point, I felt as if I didn't do that, they would just even see me as weaker. But I felt like I was damned if you do, damned if you don't.
They come to run your life in a weird way when you're young because you obsess over it. And I think that, and the thing is, and what King does, just to tie this all back to King, and this is what I always responded to, is that bullies aren't casual in his books. No. They're genuinely evil a lot of times. And this goes back to Sometimes They Come Back. This goes back to Christine. This goes back to Ace Merrill and Stand By Me. These bullies, they're much more than just guys who make fun of your hair or make fun of your clothes, you know? Like they're like he embodies because there's this whole idea with the cruelty of children, you know what I mean, is boundless. And
it's always crazy to me how old these kids are. They're like Henry Bowers is what, 13?
Yeah. He's 13.
and he acts like a convict.
I mean, do you know how like 13-year-olds look like babies?
I know.
But honestly though, 13-year-olds that's the thing. It's like that whole idea of being this young kid and thinking that you're on top of the world and you're never going to die and forever is a real thing. I think that if it informs you in a good way, then you do some great things and you have an imaginative life and all this other stuff. But then if you do it in the bad things, there's this sort of nihilism that sets in, which is
the sociopathy of children is like super real, and that's why if I see a group of like four teenage boys, 13-year-olds walking down the street and I'm alone, I like get the fuck out of there. Like,
yes, seriously.
Teenage boys are terrifying.
That's so true. And the thing that I love about it, and even in Christine, like, I don't know, when I think about Buddy Repperton or Ace Merrill in Needful Things, I mean, these are guys who, and Ace Merrill's an adult in Needful Things, but you know, he's kind of bully for life. And but these are guys who are so fundamentally rotten at their core, you know, like there's no, like, King does a great job of humanizing Henry Bowers throughout this book, in the sense that he is raised with a really shitty dad who fucks with him a lot, who smacks him around a lot, and has really bred this sort of sociopathy into him. And because he, you know, he's the one who basically tasks Henry with killing Mike's dog.
Yeah.
And but it's like, but Henry is too young to really learn that this behavior is rotten and corrupting and so on and so forth, that, you know, it makes him so susceptible to Pennywise. Like, Pennywise sees Henry as a blunt instrument. Like, Pennywise sees him as a vessel, because this kid, you know, he's like, this kid is so, and then of course when you tie it in with the town itself has evil running through the soil, you know, it's like all of that evil, like Butch Bowers has like opened up that door in Henry for all that evil to flood into him. And
it's the incapability of human connection too. It's the isolation. Like, Henry has no true friends and is incapable of human connection.
Right. And he's awful to Victor and Belch and all of them, but you know, but he makes them so dependent on him because he is so fucking callous. Like, he's so, like, they see him as unstoppable because he is in so many ways. Like, he is a shark, you know, he can keep
and it all
swimming.
stems from victimhood though, right?
Yeah.
Like,
as most bullies do.
Right. It's weird. It stems from feeling powerless and wanting to get the power. And I think we kind of discussed how the theme of the book is friendship and how the losers get power through connection, but the bullies have to get power in their isolated state, and that just comes from pushing other people down. And so for the, you know, the losers could have ended up like Bowers if they didn't find each other.
That's a prime vessel for Pennywise, is like that isolated cruelty. And then that's why I love that King can sort of take something that has been, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Not normalized, I guess, but just like
omnipresent.
What was that?
Omnipresent.
Well, I guess it's more just kind of like the concept of bullying is not taken seriously enough, in my opinion, because I think that a lot of the shit that haunts me most as an adult, a lot of it really stems from the shit that happened to me when I was young, in terms of 100%. Being targeted by certain people, and the way that targeting manifested in me a certain cruelty that I took out on other people. And that's why I always point to Todd Solondz's Welcome to the Dollhouse, his brilliant film, because it captures that. It's about this girl, you know, the girl is bullied, but then every opportunity she gets, she bullies other people because she's just like, this is the only way. If that's how you get power and that's how you can normalize yourself, and that's what I need to do. But King he often takes bullies and he uses them as avatars for like pure fucking evil. And don't
you think sometimes that gets a little one note? I think Bowers is his pinnacle of like, is great. Bowers is the perfect evil bully.
Yeah. And it's a hard line. So yeah, you're right. It doesn't always work. I mean, Buddy Repperton's I think he's a great bully in a lot of ways, but he's not nearly as transcendent as Henry.
No, God, no.
And and that's why I've always responded to his use of bullies, because I think when I was reading King, I was being bullied and I was dealing with a lot of this stuff, and it really bothered me, especially because I didn't have a place. I couldn't talk to my parents about it, because my dad, for me, he was always just kind of like, well, you know, this happens and you need to stand up for yourself and not put up with it. And that was all my dad.
And I kind of agree with that though.
Oh, I do too.
Because
what else? Yeah. What else do you do?
And that's my problem with a lot of the discussion today, is that people want to, the solution that I see for the most part with bullying, and especially with cyberbullying, is everyone just keeps slapping the hand saying like, don't do it. Like, that's a solution. It's going to happen. It's the same thing like with people, like they talk about the drug war, or they talk about, you know, pulling firearms or something like that. Like, people are going to do these things, and you have to find ways that are going to be able to have like, to be able to like kind of build yourself up to be able to work against it. Because no matter how many times that you say that this is bad and that we shouldn't do this and we should be against bullying, I agree with that 100%. But it's still going to happen.
Yeah, but
you gotta have a rehabilitation system in place.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I'll say this though, like, you're opening it up to like cyberbullying and like guns and shit. I think what I'm getting at is I'm talking about like schoolyard bullying.
Yes, no, that's
I'm
what I
talking
mean,
about
though,
person to person, looking someone in the eye and berating them and ruining them. And because cyberbullying's a whole other fucking
Well,
thing.
it is, but it's
And,
also the same sort of the fabric of just like, what is this going to do to your own constitution? Like, how is that going to affect and shape you as a human being, especially when you're a teenager?
I can't even think of what I would have done to myself if I had been subject to cyberbullying.
I
because
can't
that's
either.
a whole other thing.
But my thing is, I really wish that because here's the thing, I feel like because this is going to be a thing that you have to acknowledge that is going to exist. And this is why I do think Henry Bowers works in the cemetery, because he is that evil is a real evil. And I actually think it's one of the scariest parts of this book, and one of the more realistic parts of this book. Because what I get out of this book is I feel it is actually the best like antidote to what a lot of people complain that is the sort of star generation that's going on right now, where everyone's special and everyone has the unique ability to do what they can. And this book seems to be an antidote to that, to show you that no, reality is this, nobody owes you anything, and in fact people are going to drag you down. And my thing is, and I'm not going to have kids, but if I did, the first thing I would say to them is that, like, look, whatever I tell you and whatever I try to couch you and try to be a helicopter, that's going to be, it's superfluous, because the reality of the world is it's unforgiving, it's relentless, and you are constantly going to have to be able to jump over hurdle after hurdle. And no matter how many things are in place to be able to maybe help you and to preserve and to make sure that things are okay, it doesn't matter, because these things are there and you have to contend with them. And I think a lot of this book and a lot of what this section gets at is the sense that you have to confront it. Yeah. And that's why
this is the talk that Mike gives his infant son, putting him into the crib every night.
Well, yeah. Well, my son, I'm going to put the 1,200 page tomb that's
he starts
right
the mobile above the baby's head.
Yeah, right, with like it and the Pennywise. But my thing is, and it's not like, it's the tough love thing, and a lot of that's what kind of like my parents kind of gave me, was that, look, this shit's happening. I wish I could do something about it, but you got to figure out to deal with it. And to your point, and I agree, is that these things are things that you still think about, right? Yeah. But they've also shaped you in ways that you're either able to to interact, to figure out how you want to deal with people. And to also know that to deal with stress, anxieties, terror, nightmares on all different levels. And the thing that I always frown at nowadays is that instead of, and I think Black Mirror gets at this in the last season, is that you can't just delete and act as if these things don't exist. You have to be able to contend with it, and you have to find ways that you can. It's almost like building a muscle for yourself. You have to be able to, and it's not just you have to fight back, but you just have to figure out ways, similar to what Ben does when he's trying to go through it in his head with like the testing in the beginning. You have to figure out ways to kind of navigate it, and how you're going to be able to get to go on with your life, but know that this is going to affect you in some way. And I don't know, there is no solution to that. And I think the only way that you can really do it is just, you just have to keep having, you just have to build up that sort of stamina.
The solution is like literally to stay alive long enough to develop enough empathy to interrogate this later in life.
Yes. That's a great way to put it. But let me just say, like,
which is what this book does.
Speaking to your point, I guess the question is, if this is about facing up to fears, you have to face up to Henry Bowers. And we see that several times.
Multiple
in the book.
ways. Yeah.
But the thing is, what I love is like Henry comes to represent something much larger than a schoolyard bully.
Oh,
he comes to represent a very real inevitable kind of evil that we encounter in our lives. And it felt so real for me when I was young, because I felt like Justin Kilgore was not a bully. I felt like he was a monster, and I saw him as somebody who I feared. And if there is a lot that scares me in this book. We're going to read sections from the standpipe, which freaks the shit out of me in a second. But when I think about what I relate with and what scares me, it's when Richie pisses off Henry Bowers at the movies and knows he's waiting for him outside.
Exactly.
It's when Eddie...
I got anxiety.
Yes.
Knowing that even if they went out the back exit, he's going to find him there.
I know. And that's the thing, is like, I don't know how you watch the rest of that movie without worrying that you're going to get killed afterwards.
And that's why when last year when we were reviewing the movie, I didn't mind that Pennywise wasn't scary, because in the book, he's not the scariest part to me. It's the real life bullying, which I feel the film does a really great job at.
I really liked Henry in a lot of ways. I mean, that's a discussion for later, but I still wish they had done more. But I'll just say that, you know, it's Ben hiding in the library from Henry. It's Richie hiding in the movies from Henry. It's Eddie. Later Eddie in a later section has an encounter with Henry. These are the things that really scare me. Just the concept that, you know, your town is not safe. The streets are not safe because there is this living, breathing shark that is coming after you. And if you tell, like when I would tell my parents how much I feared Justin Kilgore, it was just like, oh, he's not that bad. You know what I mean? And the thing was, he wasn't. But when I was young, he was. It's like when I was young, he was.
I mean,
the
if
monster.
he beat the shit out of you, he's pretty bad.
He did. And
can I just say, this makes me feel like the adults of Derry. Like, I went through my own shit when I was little, but I used to think that all bullies in media were cliched, because I used to think no one is fucking shoving kids in lockers anymore. No one is punching kids in the nose or shouting names at them anymore. And it's literally just that I didn't see it.
Yeah.
Like, I have enough male friends now who have been like, no, like I was shoved in lockers all the time. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, we don't live in a movie world. This is real life. But
Yeah,
like, you know, Ian was bullied. My friend Aaron was bullied. And I was like, holy I know I was right there, but I just didn't see any of this shit, willfully or unwillfully.
Yeah. I have a, oh wait, sorry, I trailed off. Let me start over. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's I was never like shoved in lockers or anything, and that's like, it was never that broad, but that's the thing is if
some dude was like hurting you physically, like that to me is just unbelievable.
Yeah,
like I mean I believe that it happened, but it is terrible.
yeah, and but it also, a lot of it had to do with a certain kind of, it was an emotional humiliation too. I mean, I hated riding the school bus, because the school bus was where I got piled on a lot. You know, it's because you get three kids, and one would sit next to you, and one would sit behind you, and one would sit in front of you, and they'd spend that horrible 20-minute bus ride asking you weird questions about your life, telling you had a small penis, and throwing paper clips at you, and that was like a lot of, and it
psychological torture.
It was psychological torture, and I hated it. And the thing about Henry is he is just this like horrible distillation of all those things, and so I don't know and it's funny that he is my favorite character, because, you know, he stems from a lot of what I feared the most when I was young, but I think it's that kind of, there's a catharsis in that to a degree that I appreciate, and it's something that as I've gotten older, like, you know, and like you guys probably have seen me, like if I watch a movie and there's like a comedic portrait of a bully, I find it hilarious usually,
always.
because bullying behavior when you're an adult and you're rational is absurd. It's so stupid, and it's like, and you're distanced enough from being young that it's like the idea of bullying someone is so stupid and immature. And but you know, it's like, but it was such a real reality, at least when I was raised up. And like like you brought up cyberbullying and other stuff, and then obviously we live in this culture of fucking school shootings now, which everything is so heightened and so terrifying. And, you know, and the word bully is tossed around a lot when we talk about school shootings, and I'm not opening up that door necessarily, because we're here to talk about Stephen King's It, but I will just say that it's just it's a problem and detrimental.
I agree.
Yeah. And so I feel like I love that King consistently returns to that well, because it makes me feel, it's one of the things that I think ties his work to, you know, when we think about King, we think about small towns, we think about character, we think about people, we think about communities and ensembles. And that's the thing, is like that kind of archetype is always present in those communities. And
like whenever you open up a book, you're just waiting for that character to pop up.
Yeah, and I mean, I love that. I mean, and we see different variations of it, but it's the youth of Henry that I think is what really makes him stand out. The fact that he is only 13 years old.
Since we're talking about Bowers, the Bauer Hour.
It really was the Bauer.
It really is become the Bauer Hour. But and I want to mark it as that. But since we're talking about Bowers, do you think one of the things I thought was interesting is that in the movie, the one last year, his father is
a cop.
The cop.
Yeah.
And in this one, his father is just a total fuck up.
He's a farmer. Yeah.
The farmer. Yeah. Do you think that what do you prefer, and what do you actually think is? I mean, because I don't think it changes the character. Actually, I think it informs them in different ways.
Love it. I'm a fan either way. I think it works with him as a farmer.
Yeah,
I love him as a cop.
Both types of commentary are very good.
Both the commentaries are very on point. I mean, it works in the book
because you have the farming directly juxtapositioned with Mike's family.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it helps draw that relationship, because I think that, you know, the Hanlon family is in many ways sort of like what's what I'm looking for, like part and parcel of Henry's rise as a bully.
Yeah.
Like that's how he learned to be a bully, was to bully Mike Hanlon.
Yeah.
And whereas in the movie I've been bullied by multiple cops in my day. Hey, I love the police force, I love what you guys do, but you got a lot of bullies on the force. And having Henry's dad be a cop was in my opinion a very smart, current, resonant choice.
For the record, I don't love the police force.
You don't love the what? Oh, you
Police
don't love
force.
the police force? Hey, if somebody breaks my house, who am I going to call? Huh?
Ghostbusters.
It's not going to happen.
Hey, speaking of ghosts.
Yes, let's move on. Thanks for the Bauer. That was Bauer Hour with Stutter and Randall Colburn. I promise in future episodes, Bauer Hour will be more focused on the book and not me reliving my childhood scars.
I love it. Love it.
Well,
I think it's important.
Yes, but let's move on. I want to talk about the standpipe. Does anybody have any...
the Dead Boys.
Yes, the Dead Boys, because I find this very spooky. And
this didn't get me.
It didn't get you?
Oh my God.
Not at all.
Why didn't it get you, Mike?
Destroyed me.
Because I just felt that this was kind of like the cliche horror of like, well, there's a standpipe, there's water, of course, there's going to be the victims that float out of here and go after the whole, by this point, because this happens at the very, very end of these chapters, the idea of this plotting wet thing starting to come and clamber towards someone, I felt I had seen it already, and by that point it just wasn't as effective for me. I was more interested in Stan's commentary of it than the actual incident itself.
Sure. And maybe it's the fact that we actually don't see a lot of the dead kids.
No.
It's a lot of setup.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, what freaks me out. And it's the setting itself. It's
definitely the setting. It's the standpipe. It's the spiral staircase.
And the storm.
Where you can hear them coming for so far away before you actually are confronted. And the door that slams shut in the darkness. And I will say that every so often you get a Pennywise monster and you're like, I'm scared. What the fuck are those pom-poms doing there? like they have pom-poms on the end of their fingers. Yeah. Like, what?
Yeah, that was a little weird. But I will say that, like, I'll read this section because I thought it's just about setting up the atmosphere, you know, because when the kids come out, that's spooky too. And I wrote down a little quote from that as well. But I love like this whole section here. He hesitated, then stepped inside so he could see up the narrow throat of the staircase a little better. Nothing. And it was Creep City in here, as Richie would also say. He turned to leave and heard music. It was faint, but still instantly recognizable. Is it Calliope? Calliope music? Calliope music. He cocked his head, listening, the frown on his face starting to dissolve a little. Calliope music, all right. The music of carnivals and county fairs. It conjured up trace memories, which were as delightful as they were ephemeral. Popcorn, cotton candy, doughboys frying in hot grease. The chain-driven clatter of rides like the Wild Mouse, the Whip, the Coaster Cups. Now the frown had become a tentative grin. And I love that response. Like, he hears that, even though he's in the, he's in this creepy storm-ridden area, and he's still like, he grins at that. Stan went up one step, then two more, head still cocked. He paused again, as if thinking about carnivals could actually create one. He could now actually smell the popcorn, the cotton candy, the doughboys, and more. Peppers, chili dogs, cigarette smoke, and sawdust. There was the sharp smell of white vinegar, the kind you could shake over your French fries through a hole in the tin cap. He could smell mustard, bright yellow and stinging hot, that you spread on your hot dog with a wooden paddle. This was amazing, incredible, irresistible. And just the fact that he's responding positively to this is very creepy. And then he hears Camptown races and things of that nature. And then I love this whole section after he's hearing all that. Now there were shadows bobbing on the wall above him. The terror leaped down Stan's throat all at once. It was like swallowing something hot and horrible, bad medicine that suddenly galvanized you like electricity. It was the shadows that did it. He saw them for only a moment. He had just that small bit of time to observe that there were two of them, that they were slumped and somehow unnatural. He had only that moment because the light in here was fading too fast. As he turned, the heavy standpipe doors swung ponderously shut behind him. Stanley ran back down the stairs. Somehow he had climbed more than a dozen, although he could only remember climbing 2, 3 at most. Very much afraid now. It was too dark in here to see anything. He could hear his own breathing. He could hear the calliope tootling away somewhere above him. And then there's a section a little bit later that this part freaked me out so much. He whirled around, now pressing his back and his splayed hands against the door. He could feel sweat, oily and hot, running down his forehead. The calliope music had gotten louder yet. It drifted and echoed down the spiral staircase. There was nothing cheery about it now. It had changed. It had become a dirge. It screamed like wind and water, and in his mind's eye, Stan saw a county fair at the end of autumn, wind and rain blowing up a deserted midway, pennants flapping, tents bulging, falling over, wheeling away like carnival bats. He saw empty rides standing against the sky like scaffolds. The wind drummed and hooted in the weird angles of their struts. He suddenly understood what death was in this place with him. That death was in this place with him. That death was coming for him out of the dark, and he could not run. A sudden rush of water spilled down the stairs. Now it was not popcorn and doughboys and candy he smelled, but wet decay, the stench of dead pork, which has exploded in a fury of maggots in a place hidden away from the sun. I love that. It's so freaky. Mike does nothing for you?
Nothing.
I don't know. I guess it's the build up to it. I feel like a lot of times the monster sort of emerges abruptly, you know. We watch like the mummy clamber towards Ben. We watch the leper clamber towards Eddie. Here I love the build up and the fact that he only sees shadows, you know what I mean? And eventually the dead kids do come out, but it's the build up of the history and just the fact, and then it's the isolation too, because Stan is out here in this storm trying to,
he's just trying to
study his
keep
birds.
A cardinal. Like,
yeah. And I just love it. So
I think it's funny that he defeats doesn't defeat, but he escapes from Pennywise by shouting birds, even though Mike's fear was a large bird. It just goes to show how customized Pennywise is.
Yeah. And I guess it's another example of just how it's the sort of like youthful passions and the youthful, the imaginative qualities of it that really, are the things that protect these kids in the end, which is kind of neat. They tried to recreate this scene in the It miniseries, but it wasn't with the standpipe. It was with it
was like a lake, right?
No, it was like an old mansion, and like Stan went inside and the door closed on him, and then they actually showed it's like some kind of weird. I think it actually was the mummy. Like in this section, the mummy was like coming down the stairs and he recited the birds and then the door opened. It doesn't work nearly as well as it does here, but I absolutely love it.
Let's talk about the black spot real quick.
Black spot. So black spot to me is it's horrifying in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Because it's not just the fact that like Pennywise was involved. It's that this is like a horrific story of racism that is really not that far removed from something that would have really happened at that time. And so in the interlude that Mike Hanlon is writing, he reflects on his father passing away, his relationship with his father. And he spends a lot of time, really reflecting on sort of, some of the final lessons that his father passed along. And the story that I think scared him the most was the black spot.
Yeah.
And I guess what really struck me, and I mentioned this to you earlier, Mike, is that the sort of white supremacist group, the racist group in Derry is called the Legion of White Decency, which is absolutely something that probably exists today.
Yeah.
Like, let's just take the KKK and give it a cleaner little name here. Because we live in this country of people fucking just trying to put a better sheen on white nationalism while they scream about white bias. So depressing.
No, it is. And, that kind of goes into Mike's own fear, which is, there's on page 445 in this interlude, Mike writes, "There's another fear that haunts me. Rademacher suggested that I might be going crazy. I don't believe that, but if I call them now, they may think I'm crazy. Worse than that, what if they should not remember me at all? Mike Hanlon? Who? I don't remember any Mike Hanlon. I don't remember you at all. What promise? It's this idea that, granted, this is very specific to just Mike's own, journey and what he's done and the fact that he doesn't want to be left behind. But I think it goes into the notion of what his father instills in him, and that the truth and reality and history is so important and so paramount to the way that society is shaped.
Mm-hmm.
And here you have Derry that is so willing to hide it and to couch it. And that's why I love this section so much when he talks to the old timer, and the old timer's like, well, if you ask some people, the old will remember. There's where is it? It's right here. It's not too long after that. They say, but the old people remember how things really went. They always remember. And sometimes they'll tell you if you ask them right.
Yeah.
And that's kind of scary when you really think about it, because history is so, informed by what is written and what is told and what is passed down. And obviously that's not exactly the case anymore today, because everything is captured 24/7. Although there is a way that say that a lot of things, the truth and things can be distorted even more.
Even in the era of body cams.
Yeah. So but there is something really terrifying in what I love about Mike's fear is that history being vanished, and he himself being vanished in that, because he's indebted his entire life to history.
Yeah.
And so to hear this story that has pretty much been swept under in the history of Derry, there's something that's very just horrifying and awful. It's so emblematic of what this story is trying to say.
I also love that it happened because they became a fun, popular place. It was because they got a good jazz band, and then it was like that was too uppity. Like it's just a long line, and the people who are on the bottom can't get a toehold. We can't allow that to happen.
Well, it's change. That's too much for them. They don't want that. They want things to stay the same. And this is a little too revolutionary for them. And I think it ties into all the fears in the town itself. This idea that they don't want their fabric of existence to be punctured or punctuated. They want it to stay the same. They want it to be monotonous. They want their lives to be simple, and that seems to be part and parcel of that.
Yeah. And there's so much that's terrifying, because there's a lot of really graphic description of people being on fire.
God, yeah.
But I'll just read the end of it here, because it freaks me out and it feels relevant. His dad mentions that he saw a certain thing but didn't elaborate, and then Mike asks him. He says, "The thing you saw," I whispered. "I didn't want to hear, but I had to hear. I was both hot and cold, my eyes burning, my hands freezing, but I had to hear, as I suppose Lot's wife had to turn back and look at the destruction of Sodom. 'Twas a bird," he said, "right over the last of those runnin' men. A hawk, maybe, what they call a kestrel, but it was big. Never told no one. Would have been locked up. That bird was maybe 60 feet from wingtip to wingtip. It was the size of a Japanese zero, but I seen its eyes, and I think it seen me. His head slipped over to the side toward the window where the dark was coming. It swooped down and grabbed that last man up. Got him right by the sheet, it did, and I heard that bird's wings. The sound was like fire, and it hovered. And I thought, birds can't hover, but this one could, because..." He fell silent. "Why, Daddy? Why could it hover?" "It didn't hover," he said. I sat there in silence, thinking he had gone to sleep for sure this time. I had never been so afraid in my life, because 4 years before I had seen that bird. Somehow, in some unimaginable way, I had nearly forgotten that nightmare. It was my father who brought it back. "It didn't hover," he said. "It floated. It floated. There were big bunches of balloons tied to each wing, and it floated." It's so freaky. But just the idea that it picked someone up and carried them away is also really horrific to me. Mm-hmm. It's such a clear...
When it was also one of the racists.
Yeah. It's everyone gets Pennywise is there to see destruction, to slaughter everyone.
I really think the ending of this is so scary. With when it returns to Mike.
Oh, that's in my cemetery. Yeah,
I thought that whole little section is awesome. It's on page 478. I slept right where I was. My head, my arms, my notebook, and pen on the table in front of me. I woke up this morning with a numb ass and an aching back, but feeling free somehow, purged of that old story. And then I saw that I had company in the night as I slept. The tracks, drying to faint, muddy impressions, led from the front door of the library, which I locked, I always lock it, to the desk where I slept. There were no tracks leading away. Whatever it was, it came to me in the night, left its talisman, and then simply disappeared. Tied to my reading lamp was a single balloon. Filled with helium, it floated in a morning sunray which slanted in through one of the high windows. On it was a picture of my face, the eyes gone, blood running down from the ragged sockets, a scream distorting, the mouth on the balloon's thin and bulging rubber skin. I looked at it and I screamed. The scream echoed through the library, echoing back, vibrating from the circular iron staircase leading to the stacks. The balloon burst with a bang. I actually could have, like in hindsight, I think what would have actually been scarier is whatever, like there were no tracks leading away. Whatever it was, it came to me in the night, left its talisman, and then simply disappeared. I think that actually would have been a more haunting image than the balloon that's tied to it. But still,
I could do with the balloon, but no bloody face.
Yeah, I didn't really need that either. I just think like just the idea that he was sleeping and that whatever was just watching him is so eerie to me.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Love the black spot. That whole story is terrifying. And
very
just
unsettling.
Awful.
Mel, was there anything else that spooked you?
I think we pretty much covered it. We can move on.
Let's move on. Let's talk about some writing that was perhaps less grotesque or equally grotesque, but also very beautiful in a little section we call Word Processor of the Gods.
And we're going to make a new rule. Whenever I'm in here, you hear me typing. Whether you don't hear me typing, what the fuck you hear me doing in here, when I'm in here, that means that I am working. That means don't come in. Now, do you think you can handle that?
Yeah.
Fine. Why don't you start right now and get the fuck out of here?
Welcome, welcome. It is the Word Processor of the Gods. This is where the good writing is. Well, there's been a lot of good writing because I feel like this is a very well-written book, at least for the most part, except for that whole suspicious fellow beefy cop line from earlier. That's very bad writing. Yeah. Let's fly through some of these. I was mentioning earlier how much I love watching Ben just kind of be love struck. And in his first chapter, he has a really lovely section that I just want to read, very short. He went down to McCarran Park for a while and sat under a tree, not doing anything but occasionally whispering, "I love Beverly Marsh," under his breath, feeling more lightheaded and romantic each time he said it. At one point, as a bunch of boys drifted into the park and began choosing up sides for a scratch baseball game, he whispered the words, "Beverly Hanscom," twice. And then he had to put his face into the grass until it cooled his burning cheeks. I love that. I think that is the sweetest little section.
His fantasies are all incredibly relatable. I remember being that way when I was that age.
Mel, do you have anything?
I really like in the very beginning of this section when he is on the plane and we get a lot of weird visceral body metaphors.
Yeah.
Ben Hanscom turns his head to the window and looks out. Lightning goes off inside huge thunderheads 9 miles off the starboard wing. In the stutter flashes of light, the clouds look like huge transparent brains filled with bad thoughts. And a little bit later, Ben Hanscom sits in his first-class seat, suspended amid the thunders at 27,000 feet, his face turned to the window, and he feels the wall of time grow suddenly thin. Some terrible/wonderful peristalsis has begun to take place. He thinks, my God, I am being digested by my own past.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I had that whole section circled for Word Processor. I love that. Love that writing.
Mike, what do you got?
There's one line that really hit me on page 170, also with Ben. And it kind of almost similar to close to where you had read it, Randall, but he thought that fat boys were probably only allowed to love pretty girls inside. And that's just such a sad, insightful
thing. Sad.
I know, but it's just so it's so true. It really is.
I love this little section, page 392. This was Beverly. She says, she opens the magazine again, but finds herself looking at her jagged nails instead of the article on the pleasures of New Orleans. There are purple blood blisters under 2 of them. In her mind, she hears Tom screaming down the stairwell, "I'll kill you, bitch, you fucking bitch." She shivers cold. A bitch to Tom, a bitch to the seamstresses who goofed up before important shows and took a Beverly Rogan reaming for it. A bitch to her father long before either Tom or the hapless seamstresses became part of their lives. A bitch, you fucking bitch. Just like that, the intensity of that, you know, because that's how I feel like whenever I'm like in those moments where I feel like a loser, it's just like, I'm a loser, I'm a fucking loser. Like that moment just hit me really hard. Just like that sense of, anger that she's feeling at herself, you know.
We didn't mention that Richie names the club in this section.
Yeah, he does.
It happens very casually.
It's very casual. Just Losers Club.
Losers Club.
Losers Club gets off a good one.
Love it. Mike, any more?
I do. 180, Ben again. It's when he's in the library. He liked the smell of the books. A spicy smell, faintly fabulous. He would sometimes walk through the adult stacks, looking at the thousands of volumes and imagining a world of lives inside each one. The way he sometimes walked along his street in the burning smoke-hazed twilight of a late October afternoon, the sun only a bitter orange line on the horizon, imagining the lives going on behind all the windows, people laughing or arguing or arranging flowers or feeding kids or pets or their own faces while they watch the boob tube. I love that. And that's, knowing that King is a student of like Bradbury, like that's that whole October afternoon and the orange line on the horizon. That's just all Bradbury to me. Yeah. And I've done that. I always pull those sort of sections out in this part, but that always gets me. Always gets me.
Mel?
Yeah, check this out. Your hair is winter fire, January embers. My heart burns there too.
Oh shit! Are you swooning?
I remember, the first time I read this book, I memorized that poem, and it's been in my head for like most of my life.
Oh.
If someone was like, "What's the haiku from It on Jeopardy?" I would be like, "Well, it's this." I think it's amazing.
Who's the 33rd president now?
Here's a
your hair. It's winter fire.
Just keep repeating that.
Here's a very lovely, sad section from the interlude. Mike Hanlon's speaking about his dad getting sick, and he says, "As time went on, it got so I could hardly think of things to talk about with him anymore. Riding into town, I'd rack my brain for subjects of conversation, dreading the moment when both of us would run out of things to say. His dying scared me and enraged me, but it embarrassed me, too. It seemed to me then, and it seems to me now, that when a man or woman goes, it should be a quick thing. The cancer was doing more than killing him. It was degrading him, demeaning him." That's just so sad. It reminds me of The Woman in the Room, the night shift story. Any other word processor of the gods?
I like the Stan section where he talks about being offended.
Yeah. I love that.
I don't know if I want to read the whole thing because it's kind of long, but
I know what you mean. It's a good moment for Stan, and it's one that sort of he needed by that point.
Yeah.
Mike, any more?
I have some, but I just can't find them right now. But
well, let's move on. Some good writing, but there was also some very good writing in a section called The Cemetery, which if you haven't listened to, we just did about 20 minutes ago. So please go back to that. But you know what? We're hungry right now. So it's time for us to open up the fridge and pull out that leftover pound cake.
Everyone in bed, Mama. Everything in the sin.
Come to your closet and pray. Ask to be forgiven.
He's a nice boy, Mom. You like him.
Welcome to Pound Cake. This is the section where we feast on Stephen King's worst and most embarrassing prose in this. And we touched on some of it in the Cemetery. But or not the Cemetery, I'm sorry.
Misery.
The misery. We things that made us very miserable. But this is, there was some unfortunate things in here. This one made me laugh. On page 388, he saw several coarse brown hairs clinging to the shallow head wound on Richie's forehead. They were slightly kinky, like his father's pubic hair.
Yeah.
Just throw that in there. A reference that every son should have.
That's so weird. Bev, she thinks, she's like talking about the guy on the plane. She thinks,
my God, I love this one.
I bet he's got a nice, polite college boy's cock, long enough to jazz with, long enough to jazz with, not thick enough to be really arrogant. Come on.
Jazz with. It's got to be long enough to jazz with.
It's an important thing about a relationship. You got to be able to jazz. What do you guys got?
I feel like you've mentioned this bit of pound cake, the one that I'm about to say, before we even got into it, like months ago. You mentioned this specific sentence on page 175.
Okay.
Her sweater pushed to her elbows, was frayed around the neck and almost as baggy as Ben's sweatshirt. Too baggy, certainly, to tell if she was getting any chest works yet. But Ben didn't care.
I have not mentioned that one, but the thing is, King writes a similar type of sentence in so many books that...
Something was like, he says it in It. He's like talking about Beverly getting chest works.
Yep. Well, that is very reminiscent of the notorious Nubbins, the sweater Nubbins from Revival.
He says that about her too.
Yeah, I know. There was a Nubs here at some point. This is another one that just made me laugh. I think this one I genuinely laughed at because farts are, they'll always be funny. I'm a boy. When Eddie got up for school the next morning, his mother was still in bed, snoring away and letting frequent farts that sounded like long, mellow cornet notes. She was getting off some good ones, Richie would have said, which I like that phrase, and I'll probably start using it.
Those are all the ones I had.
Yeah.
I'm like scanning through most of them. And
it wasn't a pound cake heavy section.
He talks about Beverly's boobs like too much.
Oh,
but God. I like this one because it's actually from Beverly's perspective, and King is trying to like tell us what it feels like to be a developing woman. She paused briefly, as she now almost always did, to look at her chest in the mirror, trying to decide if her breasts had gotten any bigger in the night. She had started getting them her late last year. There had been some faint pain at first, but that was gone now. They were extremely small, not much more than spring apples, really, but they were there. It was true. Childhood would end. She would be a woman.
Oh, boy.
I do think it was interesting that, when we find out about the Corcoran boy dying, everyone's doing some, random things at the time, going through that Donnie Darko moment where we're scanning over everyone. As Richard Tozer was sneaking a look at the half-undressed girls in a copy of Gem he had found at the bottom of his father's socks and underwear drawer and getting a regular good boner. You could have easily just left it as like he had been sneaking, sneaking a look at the half-undressed girls. I just find it weird that you have to get that specific. With a bunch of kids.
I remember I found the Nubs reference too.
Oh, okay.
This is huge. I agree with you 100%. It's the weird specificity. But no, I just saw, I had almost overlooked it, but Mel, when I mentioned Nubs and you were like, they're here too, then I saw page 408, Nubs. So, my God, you're growing up so fast, Elfrida said. She looked for a moment at the Nubs in Beverly's sweatshirt. Just cracks me up. Nubs.
This is it's so stupid. The Richie thing that you just brought up, Mike, actually heartened me a little because Bev is the only one who seems to be watching her body change or aware of some kind of puberty or just being like, when am I going to get this physical attribute? And the dudes are not they're not jerking it. They're not Eddie. I think at one point he tries to masturbate, but only hurts himself. He flashbacks to that. I guess at least Richie's getting a regular good boner.
Yeah, but it just seems very you could hint at it, and I just don't need to go the extra mile. I mean, there is some interesting. This isn't really pound cake, I guess per se, because I had it on 313, which is the section with Eddie that I think you're talking about when he uses rubbing his cock with ivory soap. And Eddie had tried this, but the only feeling he got was the need to urinate after a while. But the way that they talk about the kids' sex it plays into the whole coming of age angle of this story as well, which I thought is actually kind of charming. I just love when they're talking about how you're supposed to rub your cock against a girl's stomach. Until it got hard.
Boogers.
Yeah, which I guess isn't really pound cake. That's not pound cake at all. That's a legitimate stuff to talk about.
And that was, I almost wrote that down too, because it's a guy named Boogers Taliendo, and he's telling everybody what sex is when he's a stupid little kid named Boogers. And that whole section to me was kind of pound cakey, but also just very funny because I knew those kind of kids.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Any other pound cake here? Or if we had our fill?
I have had my fill.
I've had my fill.
Full of nubs.
Let's put some plastic wrap around the rest of this pound cake, put it back in the fridge, and venture into a little place we like to call King's Dominion.
There's another world out there. I know there is.
Well, the biggest one is obviously Dick Halloran.
Dick Halloran from The Shining.
He's here. He's 18 or whatever.
He's in the military. And in The Shining, they mentioned that he was in the military, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is all very consistent.
A cook.
Yeah, he was a cook. It's all very consistent. Great to see him. And he ends up being kind of a hero in this, right?
Yeah, he saves Mike's dad and some other guy.
What a good dude. That's my kind of guy.
Well,
there's like 4 mentions of Shawshank.
I was just gonna say, yeah. There's another one that's interesting that on page 204. How about all that happy crappy?
I wrote that down too. Happy crappy, because that's what the kid says in the stand.
Your favorite character?
I love the kid. He's such a shitty character.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. I actually kind of like the kid in a weird way. This is a really deep one. The phrase tack, 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 T-A-K, T-A-K, T-A-K gets used. And I don't think it's a direct reference, but Tack is the name of the demon in Desperation.
Oh.
Which
a
is
book that hadn't been written yet.
No.
It's what he says when you answer the phone.
Yes.
He goes, Tack.
Tack is so creepy to me in that book. I love Desperation. And then on page 296, there was a reference to somebody being on the beam.
Yes.
So
there you are, Mac. There you go.
Yep, that's Beam of the Rat, probably.
How about 325, an Orinco chemical fertilizer truck scores by in a blast of wind.
Booyah.
Because we know Derry exists in Pet Cemetery as well.
It's true. Oh, and then secondhand rose, secondhand clothes, where Bill buys his bike. I am almost positive. I forgot to actually double check this. I'm going to do it now. I'm pretty sure that place is in Insomnia as well. I'm looking it up right now. Boop, boop, boop. This is where Bill found his bicycle in. It's in Insomnia as well. So.
Oh, interesting. Well, on page 345. It's a monster, Richie said flatly. Some kind of monster right here in Derry, and it's killing kids. I believe Metallica has a documentary called Some Kind of Monster also.
And that's not part of King's Dominion.
Yeah, it's King's Dominion influence.
What if the Metallica documentary, Some Kind of Monster, was part of the King cinematic universe?
I would love it.
I'm in. I would love to see James Hetfield square off against Pennywise.
I think he'd do a pretty good job.
Any other King's Dominion?
There was one.
There's in the Stan offended section. Let's see. In this universe, there might grow roses which sing.
Ah.
Oh, that's interesting.
And that's page 437.
There's an explicit reference to the turtle on page. Let's see here, 335. It just in the middle of sort of a moment of revelation, it cuts, and it's one of those classic King italic parentheticals that pop up, sort of punctuating a thought, and it just says turtle, which I thought was kind of neat.
I thought it was
Mike references the turtle explicitly. He says like, "I'll wait for like the voice of the turtle or whatever at some point."
Yes, you're right.
I thought that it was interesting that Bev uses the ruler in a similar fashion that they do the Mist.
The tape measure, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of an interesting little parallel there.
There's a little bit that's so gross. I had it in Cemetery, but I didn't read it. But she got a second rag and used it to clean her father's measuring tape. The blood was thick, viscous. In 2 places, there were clots of the stuff, black and spongy. That's so gross.
Yeah, those clots.
Oh, I have a special King's Dominion that connects to a small town that I like to call Twin Peaks on page 399. There were no really little kids in the building. That was the thing. The Tremonts had a boy who was 5 and girls who were 3 and 6 months. But Mr. Tremont had lost his job at the shoe shop on Tracker Avenue. Tremonts are an important character in the Twin Peaks universe.
Clearly, so maybe, Lynch is a fan.
Maybe David Lynch was reading it.
Yeah,
doesn't someone at one point call it the Boogeyman? In this section.
And
nice
Mr. Bozeman. Any other King's Dominion you guys got? That's all I had.
There's a section where there's a cowboy who walks into town and was like, "Hey, I'm looking for my friend Eddie Dean." No, I'm just joking.
That is not true.
That is not happening in the book. But
wait, did we already say the on the beam one?
I did.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
If you have more context, because I just wrote on the beam next to the page number, and my phone...
No, that's pretty much what I did too.
My phone's about to die. Any other King's Dominion? Mike, you seem like you're scanning.
I am scanning, and I don't see any more that we haven't already talked about.
Yeah, I think they were mostly small ones, but it was still rife. I think there was plenty of little crumbs to follow.
Just a little bit. I think we're going to get a little bit more down the road. So,
yeah. So very exciting. Whew. Well, this was a long one. Thank you guys so much for listening. Next week, we are going to be back with part 3, The Grown-Ups. We're going to be talking about the Chinese restaurant and a lot of other fun stuff that's going on in Derry. So please tune in. And please leave us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, whatever format that you listen to us on. Some people don't like us talking about Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, so they leave bad reviews, so we need you guys to make up for it. You know what? We're not going to change the way we are. We're just going to recruit more fans like you who love our stupid tangents. So please tell your friends. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We appreciate it. And who's all on next week? Are either of you on?
Oh no, I'm not. I'm not back till the last two.
Oh no, Mel will miss you. Mike, I know you're off, so I'm coming back though.
You're coming back.
I'm coming back, and I'm going to anchor this shit. And
one of the Gerbers will be there.
The Gerbs will be there, and I believe Aisha may be coming back.
Yes, she is.
Very excited to have her back for this. So many thanks to Katie Wright from the AV Club for joining us for the first half of the episode. This was so fun. Until next week. Long days and pleasant nights. Bye.
I got some hot friends. God, I got some hot friends. I got some hot friends. God, I got some hot friends. But you know you want somebody to treat you good.
You've made it to the end of another bloody, disgusting podcast. Congratulations. If you like our programming, consider searching for other bloody, disgusting podcasts, such as Creepy, Horror Queers, The Boo Crew, SCP Archives, Nightlight, Margaret's Garden, and more.